Welcome to Beyond the Box.
Our guests are insiders that are now out and on our side, dropping nuclear intel and breaking it down just for you.
And now it's time to introduce our hosts, Brenda Lankridge and Suzanne Haunt. Join us and subscribe for weekly shows. Beyond the Box begins now. Let's jump in.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Beyond the Box. Oh, Susie has little nugget puppies.
Okay, I have 3 of these little white ones, and I got 2 of these little red and white ones. If you can see them, there, it's so cute. So tiny. I'm gonna go put them back in. Go ahead and start. I just had to show the babies.
Mama, because she's gonna be like all over
She's
you.
a nervous wreck.
Children.
Yes.
They are adorable. I'm gonna try to see if Glenn wants one. See, he's gonna find out if his family will allow him to have it. So we'll see what happens.
That'd be good.
So let me tell you how my evening didn't start out very well.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, well, I didn't get a nap today, which was just off the chain. I don't even know what happened.
Okay.
And I've been in a lot of pain, so I had to take more of my pain pills than normal. But I still didn't take a nap. So yesterday I backed into my metal thing, and one of my glasses fell that had a if a piece of my plant breaks off, I'll put it in water. This certain plant will grow in water. Then when the roots get stronger, I can repot them. Well, I knocked it over, so Jack grabbed a towel and he cleaned up the floor, all the water that I made a mess on the floor with, and he hung it over my shower chair in the bathroom. Okay. So instead of taking it off earlier today, it's been real cold here. And I don't really keep my heater on because I can't get too hot.
Been in the 30s down there?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I tell him I need to get in the shower. So he goes in there, he takes the towel off, and he washes my chair down with water just before I go in there to sit down. And I sit on freezing cold water on my shower chair.
God.
I screamed, "Oh my God, my tipples fell off." I was so cold, Susie.
Oh my Lord.
Off of that chair. It was horrible.
Oh.
I've not eaten any dinner yet today. I don't even know what's wrong with me. I'm just all combobulated today.
Okay.
It's funny. I don't even know what's going on.
That is weird.
Yeah, I know. I don't even know what to do now. So how was your day?
Well, I went out and I fed all the horses. It was okay. I got these hand warmer things and I got the foot warmers, and I put them in my boots, keep my toes warm and my hands warm. And I put on 2 shirts, 2 coats, my gloves, and my warmers. And then I was able to go out and feed all the horses. And then I went and checked on the cows and the babies. And then we put out hay, round bales, and we had to pull all the strings off. And then I checked on the baby horse. And then I went out and I stacked up 2 big piles of wood, and I burned 2 big piles of stuff today. So it was in the 30s, but hey, I had everything to keep me warm. So, I was out there, I'm like doing
1 new baby horse and 2 new baby cows, and then a litter of puppies.
Yeah, all during the cold spell. Everybody decided to have babies while it's, anywhere from the teens up to 30. And I'm like, we're supposed to have 70 and 80-degree weather in a couple of days, and they couldn't just hold off a little bit longer.
Susie, if I was there, I'd be bringing all the babies, the cows, and the horses into my house, and Jack would be yelling at me, and I'd put puppy pads and newspaper down everywhere in case they potty.
Well, I got a cage. Puppies are in the cage in here. Yeah. Horses and cows, they're all good. They got tough hide.
Still, it's a mothering thing, No, I don't want to leave you out in the cold. Come in the house. Of course, Jack will walk in there and look at me like I have lost my mind and probably call somebody that owns a straitjacket. So, I don't know.
Well, you should see me. I'm going out at midnight, 1 o'clock in the morning, checking on everybody, just making sure everybody's okay. I'm like freaking out,
Frozen yet?
Like, are y'all okay? They're all like, yeah. They're laying in the hay, and they're like, okay,
You see that? I just move a bunch of hay into the house and just bring in the cows. Hey, Jim, bringing in the cows.
If it were like, they once they get born and they get up and they nurse, and they're okay, but you got to watch them when they're first born. If it's too cold, that they got to get up and nurse.
I don't care.
So,
He'll be bringing a bottle in the house and bringing them in the house.
Well, the amazing thing, Brenda, is God made their hide, cows' hide and horses' hide, so thick, and
I know
that they it's nothing for them. It's like having a winter coat,
It would give me a reason to bring them in and spoil them. Be quiet. Don't ruin my fun.
Well, you could do that if you want to. You can do it even if you want to. You can do it. I had to bring a calf in. I had to bring this one calf in, and I put the blankets down and stuff in my front room, and I had to bottle feed it, and I built a little pen in my living room. And I had to keep it in there for a couple of weeks, and then, did really well. It was a big pet after that,
Right? Somehow we are streaming on my Discord, and I have no idea why. Okay. That's all right, I guess. I don't know. Anyhow, so do you want to start us off with a prayer, and then we will go ahead and get Monica and Casey out here with us. We've got them with us tonight, and oh boy, they're so much fun.
Yes. Oh, it's going to be fun. So, all right. So I just asked the Father, I am just like so ecstatic that, that Trump is doing the stuff he's doing. I thank God for that, because, a lot of people who've been praying, people who love Jesus have been praying for some things to get fixed and solved. And Trump amazes me, like, how he's, he ran that show called The Apprentice. So he learned who to hire and who to fire, right? You're fired, right? So he's very experienced, and I just thank God for Trump and his family and everybody that's working with Trump, and I'm just so thankful, that God is answering our prayers, and maybe we're going to get this nation cleaned up and straightened up and get a lot of things that we've all been hoping and praying for, probably before we were ever even born and came here. We said, we looked down and said, oh, the earth's a mess, and now, it's actually getting better. So I just want to pray too for the healing angels to go and touch everybody who's sick, and just heal them, make them feel better. Everybody, and I pray a hedge of protection around us, of course, because, the devil and the demons are always out after us since birth. And that's the thing. You, Brenda, me, Casey, and Monica have come under heavy spiritual attack from the time we were born. And yet we've overcome, and we have our faith in Christ, and we love God. And I think that is such a testimony that no matter what comes at us, we still stand, and we stand strong. And so with that, I just want to thank the Father and bless everybody that's watching the show. And I hope we have a blast, which I know we will, in Jesus' name. Or Yeshua's name, whatever you want to call him, because he knows his name. So if you call him Jesus or you call him Yeshua, he can hear. He's not dumb. He knows who he is. So just relax and have a little fun and love God.
All right, y'all ready? We've got Miss Casey. Hi.
Hi guys, happy Friday.
Oh, yes. Well,
Hey,
not
Casey.
really. I still got another show tomorrow night, so it'll be Happy Sunday. I'll sleep all day.
Uh,
That's the way that works.
I try not to work on the weekends.
I know, right?
Monica.
Hi, Monica.
Hi, ladies.
How are you?
I'm doing all right. My puppy's going crazy, so he might jump up here a few times.
I was over here on my bed, like doing this whole, squishy thing and throwing my pillows. I was like, what are you doing? Now he's laying down asleep because apparently the one pillow wasn't comfortable enough. He needed the other one. I'm telling you, these pets run our lives.
We love our animals.
We do. Uh-huh.
It sounds like all of us need an intervention by Caesar Milan so that we all understand how to be the pet
I'm
leader.
down.
I don't
What?
know. Look, I have a 5-pound long-haired Chihuahua,
Oh boy.
and they're stubborn. And the first time Caesar went to him, he would probably turn around and bite him. And if he raised his hand to him, I'd beat him up. So it was a no-win there. But that baby right there, look at him.
See,
Wow.
Oh, look at that face.
I got him right after the shooting. I was under so much stress that I came down with the shingles in my eye. So I almost went
Oh.
blind. And I had COVID at the same time.
Oh, no.
Oh
So,
my God.
Now, well, I probably shouldn't say that word, but anyway, the
Well,
pandemic virus.
The beep.
Yeah. So usually it would have just been like a cold, right? But
Right.
because of everything that happened, my body just was so stressed. So I got him, and he came at Christmas time. He's my little baby.
Oh,
Aw.
what's his name?
Yeah, Brutus.
Brutus. He looks like a Brutus.
An appropriate name.
He is.
A gentle Brutus.
How old is he now?
calling me?
He is three and a half. Yeah. So yeah, he's a good boy. I really needed the companionship. So
And now he's like, can I sit with you? Can I be on the show with you tonight? What do you want to talk about tonight, Brutus?
we'll come up with something.
I think that's pretty neat.
Yeah.
So, ladies, what do you want to hit on first? What topic would you like to start with?
Oh my goodness, we have so many different topics, don't we?
I know.
So, I had a really good conversation with Casey. I just love chatting with you, and we talked about a lot of stuff. And it's just so great to have a community of people that understand. That when you're chosen, right? I'm not saying special or anything like that, but there's those that the satanic Luciferians know who you are, and they
Right.
want to control you. They want to keep you from God in every sense of the word. And so that is done through so much trauma, through physical, sexual, emotional, psychological, to keep you away from the Father, right? And so in talking with all you ladies, you understand that so well, because we've all been through that in our childhoods. We all have extreme, circumstances in our childhoods from trauma, and then understanding how that affects us today. And so on this journey I've been on, I have really come to a place where I can embrace that little girl now, and I can also heal and not have to live and remembering all the, the traumas that, we've been through, but to help people heal now from it. And so that was a great conversation I had with Casey, and how we don't want to live in the past. We want to share our stories, but we don't live there anymore.
Right.
And
Exactly.
and having that walk with Yeshua Jesus has really, that's all that matters, right? Because when somebody tells me and curses God to me, like my mother did when I was growing up, it just made me want to fight harder. Because why are you trying so hard to curse a loving God? I never understood that. And so it was kind of coming through and realizing that no matter where we've been or what we've done, we are survivors and we are strong. And it's great to have a community where we can, come together. So, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, we've all been, I mean, with what Casey went through when she was younger, what I went through when I was younger, Susie too. I think that we have all been through the ringer, but we embrace it. We use it now as our strengths, not
Amen.
as a downfall.
Right.
And it is. I think every time I hear even like the doctor tell me bad news, okay, well, I'll deal with that like I do everything else.
Mm-hmm.
And then keep going, keep pushing through, because I've been through worse and it makes me stronger.
Absolutely.
So,
Absolutely.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wanted to share that, in 29 years of talking to survivors, the one thing that the people that I have the most respect for are survivors. And people go, Casey, like, why are you doing that? Like, I had an aunt, she's like, I think you could go back to therapy and you could learn how to not talk about being molested and raped anymore.
Really? Well, gee, thanks.
And I was like, oh, well, I think the people that I've been helping for 29 years might be a little sad, if I like became mute about my...
Yeah. I mean, when we can, and that's one of the reasons why I had told Susie that I wanted to start these shows, because if we have 50 people watching and we help one person and one person gets it, then we did our job.
Yeah.
We wanted a place. Now, we don't do as much of the Super Soldier program because we kind of got mixed up with a few people that were off the chain, and it drained both of us so much. I mean, when I run from my phone because they're calling me just to yell and scream, it's like, I can't do this today. I need a break. So we decided
not that kind of break either.
Yeah, we decided that we needed to kind of step back. So survivors, we don't mind. I don't mind the older people, like Penny Bradley and Tony and all that other stuff. But the young ones, I just can't. I want to slap their parents for this, because I know they're screwed up and I know they need help, but some of them need more help than I can give.
Yeah.
Above our pay grade.
Myself crazy. Okay. So, I mean, they have a hard time, and I'm glad that you, Casey, do things like that to help them. Yeah. Because they do need that. Now, when the survivors, I can listen all day. I can sit and, give them a bump up and let's go. And, this happened to you and I understand it. It happened to me. But like you said, you don't want to live in that past anymore, but you use it to strengthen your future.
Yeah.
So it's time to start getting into that. you know?
Well, that is the key, because when I go to speak, especially when I go into a space on X and I'm speaking about survivors, people expect me to be unhinged. That they're waiting for me to like burst into tears and have some uncontrollable, meltdown. And
Right?
they're kind of surprised. Like, I've actually had people tell me that it's like, oh my God, Casey, you talk about this like it's what you had for lunch yesterday. Maybe you're not even telling the truth. So it's like, if you become really calm in discussing these really horrific things, then people actually have the opposite effect, where they're just like, what's wrong with you? Why are you talking about me being molested and raped and trafficked and like it's what you had for lunch yesterday? So there's that. But it's really important to know that when you say the young ones, sometimes there are older people who have never dealt with their trauma.
Yeah.
And they're young in
Yeah.
recovery. They're young in recovery. Whereas you can find a very young person, like I got into therapy when I was 17. And I had great therapists. I mean, I had, like, my family was just like, my mother was just off the chain in Hollywood. So it was just like, I had all this support. People knew that my mom was just out there. And so I had all this support for 12 years before I started helping others for 29 years.
Right.
But there's still, like, I'm dealing with people that are off the chain. Like, I think I shared with you guys that I had some survivors that were demon possessed. And I had one lady that was calling me like 15 times a day, around the clock, in the middle of the night and everything. And so it was crazy, because I was really, that was a challenge for me, because I was like, oh my gosh. So I finally dealt with it, where I recorded her slipping into other personas where she was a man who was inhabited by a demon. And so I recorded these messages they were 6-minute messages that she left in my business. And by the way, she's calling like an 800 number. So I'm paying for her to call me in the middle of the night.
Oh, geez.
Well, then.
Oh, no.
And she's Casey, these Freemasons, they can like jump into you at the grocery store. You just have no idea. And I'm like, no, I am a born again Christian, and they cannot jump into me. They definitely will come and they will try to attack me. But
Right.
I'm very, very, I protect myself. I wake up in the morning. I shared with Monica, I wake up in the morning, and the first thing I do is I give my life to Yeshua again. And then I go through the 7 deadly sins, and I have God address me with regard to these 7 deadly sins and how am I doing on these issues, because we are in the Black Awakening. So when the New World Order was to roll out, their backup plan was they were going to activate these super soldiers, so that if the whole of government collapses.
Said that right. You said that right.
The whole of government could collapse, and they will still have the ability to activate. And I'm seeing my survivors being activated. Some are suicidal and they don't know why. Some are hostile and they don't know why.
Yeah.
And it is.
Hey, Casey.
Yeah,
When you
Rob
say-
is.
I want to
go
ask you
ahead.
a question. You said some are suicidal. There was a super soldier, I think yesterday, just took his life, just shot himself. Did you see that?
Hey. He unalived himself. Yeah, careful.
Took his life somewhere else, you know?
Yes.
In
Right,
Minecraft.
the programming.
There's 3 that we've lost in the last 40 days.
Right.
3?
And just the ones that activated at Trump
That's-
Tower.
That's one of the programs, right, though? Take it, right?
It's called Omega programming. Yeah.
Omega?
Most of us have
Okay.
it, and you have to integrate it. And then when it
Alpha
pops up,
and
you're like,
Omega, the beginning and the end, the ending of yourself.
that's
right?
right. So, yeah.
That's what I experienced, I have some of his journal to share and a video if you want to watch that. I've got some stuff with Russ Dizdar on the Black Awakening, because I think that it's a heavy book, but it's worth reading, because it's all about this programming and how the Luciferians are in every section of our government, the military, schools, you name it. So it's understanding what their goal is and understanding how powerful Jesus Christ is against this, and prayer. And so I hope that I am just one of many testaments of how prayer protected me through 2 shootings. So, I'm like, I can't, and all the other events I've been through, and all you ladies, right? So
Right?
I didn't do it in my own strength and my own power. No, I was divinely protected because I was calling out for Jesus Christ to help me.
Right.
I'll
You
give
know.
him credit for that too. He has been watching me since the time I was born. I have probably met almost every serial killer out there, and yet, God has protected me in every situation, you
Yeah.
know. So yeah. I mean, and it's
I know.
divine protection. Yeah.
Yeah. Yes. And I know we talked a little bit about forgiveness, but it's not, it's very hard to forgive those that have done like horrendous things to us. But it really truly is key, because that if you don't have that forgiveness, it doesn't mean you have to forget,
Right.
right?
Because you can walk in freedom,
Yeah.
Monica. You can be free,
Mhm.
and you can trust, you can put your whole life and your whole future and your past in the hands of God, and
Amen.
have a good,
So, yeah.
clear, beautiful conscience with the
Yes.
Father, because you can
Absolutely.
just let it go and say, "You're God, you're the judge, you judge them, and I'm
Yeah.
just going to do the right thing and live my life, and I'm going to keep doing the right thing, and I'm not going to let what they do affect me. I'm not going to let yes, it has a temporary kind of little itch on you, but
Yeah.
you let it go. You just let it go, and then you're like, it's not my problem, it's God's problem."
Yeah. And that's the thing, is that trusting God that He will also take you through the healing journey. Because so many times I had said, "Oh, I forgive. I forgive. Okay, I'm gonna do this." But there was a scar there that needed to heal, and I needed to go through that process with God, releasing them, releasing the person who harmed me, but then now going through that journey with God.
Okay, I'm going to ask everybody in here, what was your worst scar that life did to you that you had, that it took God to heal?
Boy,
Well, I will
that's
tell you
tough.
this. Mine was losing my leg.
Yeah.
Because even after everything else that I had been through,
Really?
yes,
Okay.
because even after everything else I had been through, there was a mental change from that, but not physical. And because I was such an active person in the community and everything, by that being taken away from me, it altered my life worse than the other stuff that I had been through. So, I mean, I never really was upset about it. I never really cried over it, but I did sit around going, oh man, this really sucks, you know? And I had to just keep in mind that, just because this happened, guess what? This doesn't stop me. I can still do things. I just have to do them a little different. That's all.
How long did it take you to deal with that, Brenda? I mean,
Probably about 2 years.
oh
I
wow.
think
Okay.
I think it was when I got sick and ended up in that coma and had a stroke and my thyroid went out and I was smacked all in one, um, because that happened within about 8 or 9 months after I had lost my leg. So I had everything happen at
Wow.
once, and then it took me almost 2 years to learn how to feed myself. Again, because I would eat and things would fly everywhere. I had no control over my right hand. I used to be left-handed, and when I was younger, my elbow got crushed, and I ended up having to have metal put in there. So after being in hospital for a year with that, learning my right hand, I started to use both, but I didn't figure out because of the stroke that I could eat with my left hand. I didn't need to use my right. So I was trying to use my right hand, and it was a mess. I couldn't sign my name. I couldn't do anything. And even now, I still suffer the repercussions of that because when I first lost my leg, I was standing up getting dressed. I would hop from one end of the house to the other. Okay. But after I had my stroke, it took away my equilibrium. So now when I stand, I take a chance of falling over like a tree. So they say that they can fix that. I have to go through therapy to get that fixed. So it makes it hard because I have a very beautiful prosthetic leg, $4,000 worth of prosthetic leg that is gorgeous, and I can't use it because I have no equilibrium and I have problems with that nub. So, but hey,
You can go through therapy to fix your equilibrium.
that's what they said. I don't know how
Okay.
well that'll work, but that's what they said.
Well, that's worth trying for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Great.
Wow,
yeah.
Brenda, that's heavy. What you just laid on us, oh, it's pretty heavy.
But it did. It took me about 2 years to completely pick myself up. And there really isn't much that people can say to me that get to me that I haven't already said to myself. So this runs right off my shoulders when I hear it. It's like,
Yeah.
So yeah.
Mine is like kind of in the same vein in that it wasn't me, but it was my son. So when my oldest son, he started showing signs of muscular dystrophy at about 3, and they could not determine what type of muscular dystrophy that he had. So I had to undergo like DNA testing, genetic testing. So I went to a geneticist, and he took my blood and my son's blood. And by then, my second son had already been born, and so they wanted to check to see if it was genetic. And so they first thought he had muscular dystrophy. They tested him for Duchenne and Becker, which was the most common, and then they came back. So I lived on pins and needles. I don't remember how long it was, but it seemed like a million years waiting for them to tell me that no, he doesn't have muscular dystrophy. So I went through this emotional roller coaster of, oh my God, my son has muscular dystrophy, and he's only going to live 10 or 11 years and blah, 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 to no, he doesn't have it. So then I was just like, what? So I went through that whole issue, and then I went on I got the counseling. So they went and said, no, it had to be because my oldest son I had one child with my first and no other children. So I was already with my second at that point. And so he was a different father. So they're like, it had to have been something with the first father. It's just like an anomaly, like you and he got together and something went wrong. So since it's not in your DNA and it's not in your second child's DNA, because he tested negative for all of these tests, then you're probably home free. So after my 5th son was born, a lady showed up at the door with CPS. Like, it was actually in Florida, so it was DFS. So Department of Family Services came and said, oh, we told your husband that your 3rd son was falling off the monkey bars, and that we suspected that he had the same disease as his big brother, and he just sloughed it off. And so they sent protective services to my house saying that I had not dealt with having my 3rd son tested. So imagine that, you know that you have a disabled son and you have 5 sons, and now a genetic link pops up with the 3rd one. So now you know that it's a progressive disease. It doesn't show up at birth. And now you know all 5 of them could potentially have it. And as things panned out, they all 5 got it. So that's not it. The chances of that happening, of me having 5 sons with 5 sons, period, no miscarriages, no abortions, the chance of that happening, you can Google it, is 3% chance. Only
Right.
3% of the people who have 5 children have the same sex. So that was rare. But the fact that all of them inherited the same X chromosome, because women have 2 X chromosomes, that was really, really rare. So the fact that they all got it is proof that it's like flipping a coin 10 times in a row. First, you get 5 males, so it's flipping a coin 5 times in a row. That's a 3% chance. But if you're going to flip it 5 more times, and they're going to get the X chromosome that has the disease, not the good X chromosome, because I have no muscle weakness, so I have 1 X chromosome that has no disease on it. So that is 1 in 1,024 chance that would ever happen, which we all know with MK Ultra that's why that happened.
Right.
But the fact that would happen naturally would be 1 in 1,024. So the day that I found out that my 3rd son was showing signs of muscular dystrophy and that all 5 of them were
Oh, wow.
affected was the most devastating day of my life. Absolutely.
So
Yeah.
how did you heal from all that, or how did you deal with all that, Casey?
Well, at that point, I was already helping survivors, so I had a lot of support, and I could talk to a lot of people because I had an office, and we would meet every Thursday, and then people would meet with me individually every day of the week. So I had a good support system, but my husband was just completely checked out. So I couldn't talk to him about it, couldn't talk to the kids about it, and then so I had to suffer through this abject terror of watching each one of my children one by one, just going like, if they tripped and fall, I was like, oh my God. And then, so it just over time, I just watched each of them. And now they're between the age of 26 and 36. And the issue that I have is my exes, both of them are exes at this point. They actively say, oh, she knew she had muscular dystrophy and she gave birth to 5 sons anyway. And she's so evil. And it's just played into, yeah. So, so my oldest son, who suffers horrifically, who lives in a nursing home, is severely abused, and he pretends that he doesn't blame me for the muscular dystrophy. Here's the irony. He worshiped my mother, and it came as a result of my mother's MK Ultra torture is the reason that we all have Emery-Dreifuss muscular dystrophy. And I should mention, my last name's Emery, and it was Dr. Emery that discovered that my mother was subjected to MK Ultra, and she was electroshock, radium, lithium, and thalidomide. And I was trafficked through Hollywood while she was being experimented upon. But my kids, they don't believe that it was their grandma Dee Dee, and she was, this amazing entertainer. So the ways to blame me are so numerous that it's, you can't even calculate it.
I really think though that has to do with their fathers.
Absolutely, because my ex-husband, he came into some money because he almost lost an arm. They nearly severed an arm running over him while he was out scuba diving, and he got this huge settlement. So he takes all 5 of my sons on vacation every year. And so because he pays for their cell phones and takes them on vacation every year, they're all licking his boots. So that's a very, very painful process as a mom. That is the devastation of my life. It's not being molested and raped throughout my childhood. It's like, then I get into adulthood, have 5 sons with muscular dystrophy, Emery-Dreifuss muscular dystrophy, as a result of my mother's MK Ultra involvement. And so here we are.
Yeah, we discovered we have similar mothers too. So
yes,
that's hard to find. So it's so nice to be able to have a conversation with somebody that understands the terrorizing mother.
Yeah.
So many people tell us, right, Monica, that like, oh, I'm sure your mother loved you. I'm sure that's not true. And I'm like, you don't understand. This is a woman that was completely broken, who hated me. She literally hated me from birth. So that's the first thing. When my survivors come to me, that's the one thing that we have most in common is the fact that, fathers leave families, but when you get abandoned by your mom, that's a wild one. And people do not want to believe that. I was even telling Monica that people go, oh, I'm sure your mother loved you. And I'm like, no, let me tell you, my mother, she hated me until the moment of death.
Yeah, I think it's a jealousy.
Yes.
You know? Like it seems like I finally got a hold of my aunt who I just love. And I've always had a relationship with my aunt. That's my mom's twin. And you see in these families, there's a lot of twins, right? In MK Ultra world. And
That's
so
the science.
yeah. And so I've been able to reach out to her a little bit here and there. And she was the scapegoat of the family. So she's kind of like me. So I have broken memories. I have a lot that has still not been uncovered about my childhood. And I get flashes of them. And when I went through deliverance, God brought me these memories at the time I needed to deal with them. And it's also like what we talked about, is that it's a protection. And I've coming to an understanding that it's so much better for me. It's a protection for me to not remember everything that happened. And so I'm learning to kind of let that go and give it to God and say thank you for not, because it would be too much. And I had a lady reach out to me after hearing my story about the Presidio link in my family, where my mother worked at the Presidio, and we know Michael Aquino was there. And so she reached out to me with a very interesting story. I think, Susie, you know a little bit about this. And she said that her father was a Grand Master in the Masons, and that they would travel in the tunnels out to the Presidio for all the MK Ultra programs and stuff that they had going on. And she told me that she thinks she might be my mother or sister, because my name was found when her father died. My name was in his pocket on a piece of paper.
Oh, wow.
And we look a lot alike. And so it could be that my mother is truly my handler and not my biological mother.
Yeah, that's very, very common in the network. In fact, it's almost a requirement. So when they sacrifice a child, a lot of times they're not killing the child. That child goes to live with another family. Because if you're going to be trained up as a super soldier, a parent may not have the strength to put the child through that, but say, somebody who's handling you would have no qualms whatsoever putting you through horrific things.
They don't have that emotional attachment as much,
Right.
And so that's what, all of Hollywood is made up that way. Like you can actually do this. You can Google, who is whose godparent, and Hollywood they all have godchildren and godparents. So what they do is they raise up each other. So these children are born of orgies. So nobody really knows exactly who the father is. And then when the child is born, the birth mother gives the child to someone else in the network to raise them. And so then they go through their trauma counseling and their mind control programming with a network family, so that you have that 1 degree of separation. And they truly believe, and I've heard them justify this. It's like, hey, if you want to be an exemplary, high functioning human being, you're going to have to be put through a lot. You're going to have to grow a lot of, you're going to have to go through a lot of life threatening experiences that make you stronger. And that's why they do this without any hesitation whatsoever. And they have no guilt whatsoever, because at the end of the day, they know that they're creating a super soldier that is going to have like really, and the way I explain it to people is like, okay, what about the hunting parties? I'm like, if you want to develop a child and have them be the fastest runner on planet Earth, are you going to send them to the school where they're going to have them run track? Or is it probably going to be more effective if you put them in a hunting party and point a gun at them? You're going to develop a child that actually knows how to run.
Right.
That's the truth of the Montauk and all of these programs, is that you are going to really create super soldiers, and what they put us through is completely justified in their hearts and in their minds, because even my mother, she's like, you have no idea what I'm doing for you. I'm giving you opportunities. And she would get this witchy voice. I'm giving you opportunities that I never had. And you're going to be able to be married to the wealthiest, into the wealthiest family. And you're going to have such privilege. And this is something I never had. And she had this. And
I was going to ask you, does she grind her teeth too?
Oh, yeah. And she had this
My mother would do all the time.
She would grind her teeth, but she also had this thing where her pupils, she would get so fixated that her pupils would like shake back and forth. And I have mentioned this to like a half a dozen doctors, and they're just like, I don't even know what that is. But yeah,
my wobbly eyes.
My mother's pupils, she would get so intense that when she would go into these alter personas that her eyes would just literally go back and forth like. And
oh my God.
Yeah. And I can't even, I have not found anybody that had the exact same situation. So it's from what I understand, it's a rarity, but yeah.
Wow. Yeah. My mom, she would start grinding her teeth and her face would manifest with demons. And I always had that ability to see demons in people. And probably because, she was like that probably before I was born in her womb, I'm thinking. And so I just always knew. And she would just get so evil, and she would, wish that I'd starve to death and die and go to hell. And, it just went on and on. And what's interesting to me is through my discovery is that I would say that this is a familiar spirit, because the demon that the demons, she had legions. The demons that she had came out in my former husband. And they would know things about me, and I could see that the demons in her were the ones that are coming out in him.
Yeah, they communicate.
Mm-hmm. And they hated each other. Boy, don't get them in the same room, because she would just get straight up nasty. So,
wow.
Yeah.
My mother hated my ex-husband until I left him. And then she joined forces with him to attack me.
That's that Jezebel
Yes.
spirit. Yeah.
Wow.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, my mom, she was always like that too. She was always jealous when I'd be dating somebody or in a relationship. It just drove her nuts, and she wanted to get that attention, right? And so she'd come from a really bad place to get it, at any cost. And then we'd end up in this huge, knockout, drag down fight. And she would hit herself in the face and rip out her hair. And we talked about that. That's also in the programming. So it's like they're shorting out or something. And she would literally bruise her face and rip her hair out until it was bleeding,
Oh, wow.
That's gamma programming, where they implant in the programmed individual ways to question their own sanity.
Uh-huh.
What program is it?
Gamma.
Gamma.
It's
What
gamma.
is it? Gamma? Like gamma ray? Like a
It's
weapon?
basically what they do. They implant this in you so that if you ever get to the point where you want to tell somebody about the atrocities that have been committed against you, or anything about the network, that when you begin to speak the truth, then you'll question yourself. Like, all the gaslighting comes through in self-loathing, and then it expresses itself as self-harm. So you've got cutters, you've got people that slap themselves in the face.
Oh.
And also my mom, she would do, like, when she'd get caught, because she was a narcissistic personality, they don't have feeling of guilt or anything, right? So it was a fake guilt. And so she, instead of saying, oh, that I maybe should have done that differently or something, she can't apologize at all. And so she sat there and she said, I'm stupid. And she'd hit herself instead of just admitting, hey, yeah, maybe I'll do that better next time, right?
Self-destruct, huh?
Yes. And I would sit there and watch her, and I'm like, Mom, would you stop being dramatic? I would tell her that because I was so tired of it. It was just like, just get a grip on reality. But she couldn't. She was completely mind controlled. And sorry, my dog, she's telling me to go out. Brittany, you're going to have to wait a minute. Sorry.
Tell him to hang on for a few more minutes. So we're going to take a 5-minute break. He can go outside.
Oh, yay. Did you hear that? So, yeah, it was really always so extreme. And she just could not come to any kind of reality about what was going on with her. And she just could not see it the way that maybe somebody would be telling her, okay, this isn't, not that you would say it's not normal, but it's like, okay, you need to calm down. You're in your 60s, 70s, just relax. And she just couldn't. And so that was one thing with my former husband, is he would also grind his teeth, the same demon, and come at me in the same way. So, but his way was always gaslighting me. So he would do more of that in that moment where I was the evil one, So, yeah, very, very intense personalities, and I've prayed for her all my life. I've done everything I can, but she is just so in denial about any of this that, she won't tell me what happened to her. I've just put the pieces together because of where she's been, right? And what she suffers with. It's it's just so sad. But that's why I'm kind of getting distracted with my dog. I'm sorry. That's why I keep on praying for these people, because I know that God protect me during those shootings. I know it 100%. And if more people can wake up to hear that these people have been demonized since childhood, and their little souls just were not strong enough to handle the programming. And so if there's people around that know that this stuff is real, like for instance, when I go to church, I'm praying, sorry,
You're fine.
I'm praying protection prayers over the church, right? Or wherever I go, I'm praying protection prayers, because these people are going to be activated at a certain point. And right. The only true defense is going to be Jesus Christ and prayers for angel protection. And so I really believe that everybody, when you're out in public, when you're in a, somewhere, we should all be praying, because I think that's the ultimate protection against this evil that they're being forced into, because they were never able to escape that programming. So then when they're activated, it's too late. And so it's the people around that have that relationship with God that's going to, help minimize the damage, if you understand, if that makes sense.
Yes. I'll tell you what we're going to do. We're going to go ahead and take our 5-minute break, because apparently mine has to go out too. We'll do the doggy potty breaks. And when we come back, we're going to ask Susie the same question she asked us and how she overcame it. And then I want to talk about, with Casey, is there a way with you guys? Is there a way to break that programming so that we don't have to worry about these people going buck nutty on everybody?
Absolutely. I look forward to that.
All right, guys, we will be back in 5. Hang out. You know the drill.
Hey.
Everybody is here. So, back to our conversation. Now that all the doggies are relieved.
I know it's raining outside. He didn't even want to go outside for
Oh.
a minute.
Don't you love that when that happens?
Right.
So, Susie, how about you? We've all talked about the tragic things in our life and what it took and all that. So, now it's
You
your turn.
know, Brenda, gosh, listening to Casey and Monica, you guys reminded me of my mother, which is not a good story either, you know. But mine was my mom put me in a Christian school when I was in kindergarten, and a Lutheran Redeemer, and I found out about God, and I fell in love with him when I found out there was a God, and I told my mother that, and it was like she turned into a demon because she forbid me. I was never allowed to talk about God. It was forbidden in our house. I couldn't even speak his name. I couldn't have it. And I started getting dreams immediately. And God was talking to me all the time, telling me things. And she persecuted me all the time, day and night and day. And so she just became the worst mother ever. And then the courts fought between my mom and my dad ended up getting custody of me when I was 12. And for 3 years, when I moved in with my dad was an alcoholic. So every night he would beat us severely. He would take boards and beat me from the top of my back to my feet till I was bruised. And he would throw bottles at me, shoot guns at us. He was a very abusive, cruel, cruel father. And I lived through that for 3 years. 3 years. And I thought to myself one day, if there's anything such as reincarnation, I will never believe in it because I'm never coming back to this again. I just said, and I'm like, why would I even say that? As if there was something to that, because why would I say that? It was so bizarre. I thought, that's weird. So I survived 3 horrible years and I ran away at 15 and went to live with my grandparents. And Grandpa had a stroke, and I ended up moving in with a strange family and going to high school. And then my mom, when I was 17, she got a wild hair that she was going to force me to come live with her in Florida. And so I had to come live with her, and she put me out on the street. So for 3 years, I had to live on the streets in Florida, and I had to just wander from home to home. And so by the time I was 20, I lived in over 350 homes. Okay. And I had no love in my life. My mom gave me a hug one time and told me she loved me when she was drunk and throwing up. And my father never hugged me and told me he loved me. So I never had any of that. I never experienced anything from mother or father, nothing. And never, had any of that. Well, when I was 20, I came to Texas, and then I got pregnant, and I had, no home, nowhere to go, and I had to give my child up for adoption. And he's actually doing well. My son is doing well, he's happy. So it did turn out to be okay. And then I ended up having another child, and that child died when he was 4 months old, and that broke me. Because I never got love from my parents, but I loved my child very, very much. So that's what I was introduced to a preacher at that time. I was, 20, 21, or yeah, 20, no, 22, I think. Yeah, 21 or 22. And and he told me it was okay to cry, because I didn't cry because I'd been through so much. I didn't cry. He said it's okay to cry. And so I would go to the grave of my son every day and cry. And I missed him so much. And so I was able to go. The preacher invited me to church, and I was able to go to church. And then I had the Lord speak to me and told me to choose him, and I did. I at 22, I had a Damascus story on the road to Damascus where Paul encounters Jesus. That was my coming to Jesus moment. At that moment, I didn't want anything the world had. All I wanted was Jesus at that moment. And from that moment on, I have never looked back. And but the thing that scarred and hurt me the most was I got married again, and the Lord had actually warned me not to marry this person. But I thought that he was changed because he said, I see your life and how you turned it around for Christ, and I want that in my life. And he went to church with me, and I ended up marrying him, but God had told me not to before. But I thought maybe maybe I knew something that God didn't know, you know what I'm saying. And I married him, and I had a daughter. And so what broke my heart was when my daughter was 19, my daughter died. And that shattered my heart. That broke me. And I mean, literally, if your heart was made of glass, mine was in a million pieces, and I couldn't put it back together because everything to that point I could deal with, but I couldn't deal with losing her. She was everything to me. She was the sweetest, most beautifulest, most wonderful person. She taught me lessons about love and kindness, and her name was Tasha Marie Hott, and she was just like, she was the most amazing kid ever, And we were on the farm one day, and basically what happened was she got pneumonia in her lungs, and she collapsed, and we took her to the hospital, and she went into a coma, and she never came out of it. And so I was, that's what broke me. And what healed me was about 2 years later, I went to a friend of mine who was a Christian. He had a place where you could go up on his land, and he had a big rock way up high on this hill. He built it, and it was a place where you could go talk to God. And it was out in the middle of 100 acres, and it was just this big rock, and you could just go up there. Well, I went out there one day, and there was another preacher there, and the other preacher walked up to me, and he said, God's going to heal your heart today. And it literally felt like that 1,000-piece of crystal or porcelain heart of mine got glued back together. Now, I'm not saying that he healed my heart. I'm just saying he put those pieces back together, and everything's held together in there with glue right now. That's my heart. My heart is broken, but it's like, you drop your favorite cup and you glue it back. That's what God did for me that day. He put me back together. And so I was able to heal because I guess you could say the love of God is so strong. And when these things come against us, we've all suffered. I know all y'all stories. Every one of you has been through something. But like I said, I couldn't be here. I couldn't speak. I couldn't survive. I couldn't be, I couldn't go on if God hadn't done these things for me and hadn't healed me and hadn't helped me and hadn't been with me, no matter who was against me or what I was against or what I was against, whatever demonic forces were up against me through all the people that I was encountering in my life, and up until the time I was 20, I never met a Christian. Literally, like, people said they were Christians, but not one person offered to help me as a child. Not one person was there. I didn't know what a Christian was, So I said to God, I want to be that Christian that I never met. I want to be that person that I never knew that should have been there. I want to help those people like me who I made it a point to help other children and other kids, and that's been my life is to help other people, to be what I never found in life, and to be, be an extension of God, like I could be the physical extension of God's hand in the world and help people. So, but at the same time, the devil knows if you're that kind of person too, that he can target you and take advantage of you. But that's why we have to pray and we have to ask for discernment, so that we help the ones that we're supposed to, and we're careful and not allow the devil to send the bad ones in our life. So that's my horrible heartbreak that got healed. So, but I have my son Joel, and he is the joy of my life. Joel is an amazing miracle, and so God is good. That's all I can say is God is good. And the world is not necessarily a good place to be in sometimes, but sometimes it can be a good place. You know what I mean? It's good and bad.
That's right.
So,
Yeah.
Yeah, I had a hard time when I lost Brooklyn Grace too. And we had just gone to all my appointments. She was healthy. She was almost 6 months. I was 6 months pregnant with her. And we were in the shower, and my husband at the time turned to me and said that I was going to lose my baby because we weren't married and we were sinning against God, and God was going to punish us. And that was after my stepson's shooting, and we were devastated after that already. And like my husband at the time, he didn't get off the couch for a year. He was so devastated about his son. And so nothing was normal. And so when I got pregnant, that was my hope. And then I had boys, so I was really excited about having a little girl. And so when he turned to me and said that to me, and I told him, he got really angry with me. And I said, don't tell me that. That's between me and God, not you to tell me I'm going to lose my child.
that's sad.
And sure enough, within, I think it was a couple of days, I went into labor in the middle of the night and had her, and she was not alive. So it was really, really difficult to let go of that hope, like she was going to be the new beginning and, something to cherish that I needed in my life. And then she was just gone, so going through that morning was really tough whenever you lose a child. And it's very, very hard. So that one nearly broke me, but the same, God just worked on healing my heart, and it took me a while. I got really obsessed. I wanted to get pregnant right away again. I was always trying to get pregnant again, and it never happened, and so that was really devastating, because then I would relive it every month, thinking, oh, I'm pregnant again. Oh, I'm pregnant again. And it never happened. And so it was really hard to let go of that, the baby, that. But what was really cool is that when I started to let God heal me, he actually gave me dreams where I could smell her and be close to her until I was ready to let go of her, until I was ready to take that step and really heal and, just know that she's with Jesus and
Right?
she's happy and loved. And, now I have to go on through my healing. So that was really tough. And also knowing that that was a word curse that was spoken into me for me to lose that child. And that
what's common about all four of us is that each one of us did not experience the love from our parents, our mom and dads, right? Brenda too. She didn't get to know her parents, and each one of us never got to experience that. But we pour our love into our children, and I see that as something that's very common with all of us.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you have to be really careful that you address your trauma and you heal because otherwise you can do just the opposite, which may be also toxic. So it is really,
Right.
Yes.
yeah.
That's why
And
we need God in our life, because we can't heal ourselves. You know, we need His touch, you know.
yeah,
That's
Yeah,
like,
because we could have easily become enraged, angry, turned to the opposite of the fruits of the spirit, gone to a bad place, suicidal, whatever,
Right?
yeah,
right? But
drank it away or pop pills or any of those things. And
yeah,
that's, yeah,
yeah,
those are
Right?
things. Yeah.
alcohol, whatever it might be, and that's surprising that we didn't, because I think most of us here have had, alcoholic parents or drug addicted parents or whatever. I mean, that's what, I experienced. And it was like, oh, we're just going to numb our feelings. We're just going to numb the pain and become angry and bitter and hurtful and abusive, and we made that conscious decision to not do that, because that's not who we are. You know,
Right.
it takes a lot of letting go and trusting that God knows the beginning, the end, the middle, everything, and we just need to trust that we have treasures in heaven, right? And and that He will heal those timelines, and he will heal those relationships if we let Him. That's why I feel so sad for these people that don't see it. Like, how much more joyful and happy could their lives be, where they're just in misery, they're just existing.
You know,
right.
Monica, what gave me strength a lot was that one scripture. It said, where God says, I will be a father to the fatherless. And so I always felt that it wasn't the earthly parents that gave me what I needed. It was my heavenly Father that
Yeah,
gave me the love that I needed. And so with that, I was okay, you know.
yeah, yeah. There's so much that, between the four of us could have broke us forever, right? So, and we're still standing. And well, that was one thing, I guess, with the programming that I had that we talked about was it beta, Casey?
Sex.
Beta pro.
Yeah.
Yeah, because no matter what, when I was younger, I would disassociate and I'd always have a smile on my face like nothing was going on, you like through the shit. And it's just like, oh, yeah, I'm
Right.
smiling, But I have a genuine smile now. But
Right.
then I didn't. It was totally dissociation with my environment, you know? Like, it was the only way I could cope. And also, too, I think that was part of my assignment, was that I was the front. I made everything that they were doing stay hidden, not knowing that I was doing that, because it was happening in secret around me. And, and psychological mind, how would you say that? Almost like hypnotizing me, where I didn't know what was going on. And
Yeah.
so I would just put on that front, like, oh, we're a normal family. And there's, we just blend in with everybody, which was not the case at all. But that's how it was always. And I would be like dying inside, but I would still be smiling.
Yep.
Yeah.
So, Casey, what have you found in the last 29 years, and helping all these survivors? What have you found works best to break that programming and help them heal?
Yeah.
Good
It's,
question.
it really is an excellent question, because for many, many years, what I was doing was reparenting the inner child. So what we would do is we would talk through the trauma that this person was experiencing, whoever it might be. And then we would take that feeling, because let's say you've had a horrible day with your boss. Let's say your boss yelled at you and now you want to have him killed, because you're just like, okay, wait a minute. This isn't about your boss. Okay. this is a power that someone stole from you. And so I would actually do age regression with them. And so it was Christ centered. So we would get in prayer, and then we would go back in time, and we would find that little child that was in a powerless situation where there was a person like the boss that had taken all their power away and had made them feel like they wanted to die, like literally, like they wanted to kill somebody, or they wanted to kill themselves, or, you know. And I always had this joke, there's no suicide, no homicide. So that's a good day. There's no suicide, no homicide. and people would laugh that, just like, oh, Casey, that's horrible. I can't believe you said that. But I'm like, look, if I don't laugh, I'll cry. So, it's one of those things where when you help literally pull people back from the brink where they want to throw themselves. So when I first started 29 years ago, I was a therapist, put my group on the list for people to call the suicide hotline, would come to my meetings. So I became like this person that was specializing in suicidal people. And this is before I knew about MK Ultra. This is before I knew about the Luciferian Brotherhood. I knew that I was molested in Hollywood and all of that sort of thing. And I knew that I was molested in family foster care and raped and all of that. But I didn't understand the network. So once I really truly, because I'm in this 14, 16 hours a day, you guys saw me when I was like on Awake Nation, like 5 days a week. And I was like getting up at 4:00 in the morning. And I was like, okay, I was in this. It was supposed to be like 1 day a week, and then it turned into 5 days a week. And so what I learned is that, okay, so I understood about the Black Awakening. So I grew up with my mother having these multiple personalities.
What is your definition of the Black Awakening, Casey?
Okay, the Black Awakening is what the Luciferian Brotherhood designed for. They planned the New World Order, and they brought us to the place that we are currently in. Okay. And they planned to infiltrate all of the top levels of power. And then when the time was right, they were going to bring in the New World Order, and they were going to kill a bunch of people off. And the ones who were the most compliant, they were going to turn them into the slaves. And they hoped that it would be a much, lower population. So we got a depopulation agenda that's going on with these Luciferians. So what I learned was that this was a Luciferian Brotherhood construct of their plan all along. And
Gotcha.
That plan consisted of bringing us into the New World Order so that they could enslave us and become the ultimate puppet masters. They were building all these underground tunnel systems so that if we ended up in a nuclear war, they could go underground and be protected. And the rest
Michael Aquino had a big hand in achieving a lot of that, what you're just describing.
Yes.
Yeah, I read
absolutely.
his book, Mind Wars.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
about the psychological war. He's like, okay, well, he was one of the heads of the military, right? Up at, I think it was Fort Bragg, where he had a pretty major psychological.
He had a school in Hawaii also where he did, trained, did experiments on people.
Presidio. Yeah, so it's
so essentially, what I learned is that this is the network protocol. And when you talk to people for 29 years, they really worked hard to make sure that we all we never met. So, you've got the people that work in Raytheon, Lockheed, and the Boeing, and these, aeronautic
NASA
spacecraft. Okay.
Yeah.
Then you have the Hollywood people, and they think they're completely disconnected. No, they're the same. It's the same deal. Then you have the politicians. So basically there's all this compartmentalization. And with this compartmentalization, we see that things are really bad, but you think it's just your industry. You think it's just this problem, but it's actually the big picture, and it's been in our congressional record since January 10th.
Bad people with a lot of money and power and evil control. Yeah.
That's right. Since 1963, January 10th, 1963, the Naked 45, or the plan to bring us under Satanism via communism under that name, that was all planned out. Everything that we're seeing with the transgender, controlling the media, controlling the politicians, controlling Hollywood, all of that was part of the plan poisoning humanity with fluoride, strontium, barium, aluminum. That was part of the plan. But what they did not really, behind the scenes for each individual that was part of this network, they had all these different levers of programming. So when we talk about alpha programming, beta, gamma, delta, you've got, and the omega being the suicidal. So your deltas are your assassins, okay? Your beta are your
Deltas are the assassins.
yes.
Okay.
So alpha is your initial
You
programming.
know what's interesting about that, Casey?
Yeah.
Is my husband, one of his units, and I'm sorry to interrupt, but I was just like, whoa, this is crazy. I have his podcast with his own words speaking. He was on a Delta unit in the Middle East.
Of course he was, right, Casey?
So I hear all of these things, right? And it's like, oh, more puzzle pieces coming together that he was.
And
Yeah.
there's different code words, but the code words.
So Delta Airlines, is that like, are they like working for the?
Well, they all are. Anything that's, I was a stockbroker, so anything that's publicly traded, that's fair game, man. That's BlackRock, Vanguard, State Street, Berkshire Hathaway. That's the plan, to get control over those so that they could dictate. So we've been living under a corporatocracy. That's how they dictated the without having it be properly approved under certain organizations and things like that. Like you take your pilots, for example, they're never supposed to take any temporary until it's been approved, fully approved, not under EUA, but fully approved for 12 months. So now you're going to watch all these planes fall out of the sky because they're going to roll out the truth that these pilots have been in violation of FAA. But that's a side note. So let's come back. So what you have is all of this programming that's happened. So their backup plan was they were going to bring the government, entertainment, media, that was all going to bring us into a capitulation, and we were all going to fall prey to lockdowns and to their control mechanisms and to transhumanism, and we were all going to sign up for things that would make us transhuman, attach us to the Internet of Things and all of that. That was part of the plan. And the backup plan was that all of these individuals who had this programming, if they turned against their programming and they were going to become whistleblowers, then first their gamma program would kick in, where they would question themselves, blame themselves. So that's the self-mutilization, the slapping themselves in the face. And then ultimately omega, where they would, if they did successfully disclose, they would off themselves. So people would just discount it like, oh, they were crazy. So that being part of the game, where this is the protocol, how you bring this person. So the Nazi scientists had this plan. Trauma-based mind control was how you bring somebody into this compartmentalization, dissociate them, cause these alters to exist, and create the code words where you could have them become assassins, become honeypots, and perform certain things within the network. That was all part of the plan. But if everything fell apart, and if we saw what was going on, with our politicians, with Hollywood, and so on and so forth, like we're seeing now, the backup plan is the Black Awakening. That was where all of these programmed individuals would come out and they would do whatever they were told to do. And then ultimately, before they were actually picked up to be questioned, they would off themselves.
Self-destruct. Yeah.
I have a video on Russ Dizdar talking about Black Awakening if you guys want to listen to it.
Have you read his 467-page book? It's pretty intense.
Yes.
Did you read it, Casey?
Yes.
Yeah.
This is this is my life. I am dealing with these people all day, every day. And so, and some of us have, I've done so much integration. Like, I have no dissociation whatsoever. I have no memories that are missing. Now, my brother told me specifically, I don't remember our childhood at all. And I'm like, what? You don't remember? And he's like, what part of I don't remember anything about our childhood do you not understand? Which makes it very easy to understand why he became a Satanist, why he has an award-winning atheist podcast, why he's capitulated in Hollywood, and why he's now targeting my children, and why they're so easily captured, because their Uncle Emery can get in front row seats to the Jimmy Kimmel show. So that's how it works. So within that, when people come to me, Brenda, in answer to your question, when they come to me and they have these memories that they can't access, the one thing that I always tell them is this is God's perfect plan.
Right.
Don't work so hard to access memories that God put over here because they were just too traumatic to handle right now. So let's first do the most important things, which is what Matthew 17:21 said, that these demons go out through prayer
Prayer and
fasting.
fasting.
Fasting. Yeah.
Demonic oppression occurs through parasites. This is
Yep.
what our government does not want us to know, that we all
That's why they
need
keep flooding
par-
us with parasites in the mosquitoes, in the ticks, in the air, in the food,
Yeah.
and in the water. You know, parasites,
And-
parasites, parasites.
and they also
Well,
are
when I
putting-
went through my deliverance, I was fasting, and the demons came out a lot quicker. They lost their right, like that. And I
Mhm.
did another deliverance where I didn't do the fasting, and then it was a harder process.
Yeah, I do not. I always tell my survivors, I'm like, look, don't even try to go there until you have a consistent protocol for deparasiting, and then you're excreting the heavy metals. And I'll tell you why. We're so far into the Black Awakening, and I can't stress this strongly enough. We're so far into it because where we are in this process of taking down of humanity, that if if 20 years ago, this wasn't necessarily the case. We didn't have everybody just so heavy metal toxicity laden like
Right.
we have now. We didn't have the Internet of Things. We didn't have the body area network. Remember the WBAN? Everybody has their Wi-Fi set to that,
Right.
And so, and one of the things that I've been dealing with lately is all these people that have been abducted by aliens. So one of the things that I've been doing is like the alien agenda was what they planned to roll out. If we got to the point where we understood that these people worship Satan, their plan is to say, look, they're aliens.
Yeah. Look over here, not over there.
But the truth of
I'm
the
not
matter,
surprised.
the
Speaking
truth
of
the matter
fasting,
is-
I tried to do a Daniel fast, 21 days. I made it 19 days. No food.
That's awesome.
no food for 19 days.
That is awesome.
19.
Yeah.
Gosh, I did that when I had COVID and I almost died. So I don't recommend it.
It was very, I was very weak. Let's put it this way. I couldn't, you don't want to be taking care of horses when you don't eat every day because you don't have no energy.
Yeah.
Oh my
You know.
I
goodness.
did a broth fast too. So you
I just
can
did
do-
Coffee
also,
and water. That was it. That's all I
Yeah.
did.
You can
Also,
do
too, they say that you can fast also like things that you're addicted to. Like, if you're like addicted to your phone, you can like fast from that. Or it's something that you're surrendering to God. So it can be, a material fast or, a combination.
But for the
Something like that.
parasites, the food fast is because your body, what happens is your body isn't working to get rid of the food that you're eating. So you spend that time talking to God. So you're strengthening your spiritual side because your physical side is quiet now. So that's kind of what
there's
fasting
a
helps.
science. There's a science to it too. It is very literal and very, very scientific. So parasites are how
Right.
we get heavy labor. So I was going to say with the HEK 293 because they're not just poisoning us with fluoride, strontium, barium, aluminum, and ethylene and atrazine and all of that stuff in the chemicals.
Right.
They're connecting us. We all have this addiction to
And the
these
cereals.
smartphones, the Wi-Fi. But the most important thing is that we have the parasites that have the nanoparticulates, and then with 70% of the planet being vaccinated, then those issues come in as well. And so with these considerations, we all have to get to the point where we are getting healthy. You have to get healthy because this is what I said to a gentleman, a good friend of mine, who truly loves God, and he's always sharing his testimony
I'm
and
gonna
things
grab
like that.
something real quick. Keep talking.
And I say to him, I'm like, honey, if you were going to come to someone and you were going to share the miracle of Yeshua, our Messiah, and the beautiful miracle that we all are, and to bring him into a personal relationship with Yeshua, would you just stop? If you had an individual that had a severe weight problem, that was spending their time drinking, like say a Mountain Dew and eating at McDonald's every day, are you just going to have him give his life to Christ, or are you also going to help him with the temple? because that's really the crux of it, because we all are so heavy laden with parasites and heavy metal toxicity that if
Okay.
what is that?
Can you see that?
That natto ZMET, is that your that's your excretion protocol?
So if you had the
Yeah.
can't say it,
Uh-huh.
okay, that right there will correct the problem.
Chlorine dioxide also, which is liquid oxygen, it will help you excrete
I'll go get
a lot of
that.
different toxins. Yeah.
So you can look that up, you know, for anybody wanting that. And what this does is what it says it does is it strengthens your strengthens your your heart, okay? And it's cardiovascular support.
Where'd you
And
get that?
Nature Sunshine.
Okay.
Nature Sunshine is a really good company. They
I
have
don't know where my
high quality herbs,
Mhm.
and so
Okay, so I'm going to just share with you that I really
that's
think
what it looks like. They're little vegan capsules, you know,
yeah.
and it's just the herb is inside. Yeah.
How often do you take it?
I think it's like once a day you take one. So and that, you know, you hear all the stuff that the messed up your RNA and, you know, all that kind of stuff, right? That will get you back to normal. Okay.
Yeah, see, that's, and the other thing is that you don't have to go on a 19-day fast, which is great, Susie, that you did that, but you can actually fast every day. You can fast for 14 to 16-hour days every evening, or just 5 days a week. And that's been really, really helpful for me. I'm supposed to be dead by now. So just by deparasiting and excreting heavy metals, I've had 2 years where my cardiologist is like saying, what, you used to have like a deadly arrhythmia where you literally were passing out and having a deadly arrhythmia that could kill you every 4 to 6 weeks. And I've gone 2 years without a single deadly arrhythmia.
Awesome. Praise
Yeah,
God.
this eliminates also blood clots and things like that too.
Oh,
Good.
wow.
So
I
that's
haven't heard of that one.
the most important thing, is that we're to the point where the Black Awakening is in full force. So if you've got the programming, you're going to get this. You're going to have the depression. You're going to have the self-loathing. You're going to gaslight yourself. Then the Omega program is going to kick in. And if you don't actually get activated to be a honeypot or an assassin, then you're still going to have all of these other residual things that happen. So that's why it's so important. If you can deparasite, excrete heavy metals, guess what? Their access to you goes away, because they're attacking you through the 5G. That's
Yeah.
how they're doing it. So
Yeah, Brenda, show everybody what you have, what we got. Also,
I showed
the gold.
Lucy earlier.
Okay.
Wait a minute. Hang
You can
on.
see it.
Let me fix this.
This one decalcifies your pineal gland. Okay.
the parasitics do as well. So it's just really, yeah.
This is called.
It's
Can you read it?
Armus.
Armus.
It's 24
ORMUS.
karat gold in it. Yeah.
Wow.
Oh, that's awesome. I have the ivermectin too. Taken
I've got
that.
some of that, but
This stuff here, it says you'll go from spiritual slumber to, or no, you'll go from something slumber to spiritual wonder, and it will.
Where do you
It
get
may
it?
increase your IQ. It says the gold. Yeah.
It
yeah,
does. It causes the
I'm still trying that. It hasn't worked yet, but it has given me. I've been having like strange dreams, like I had a dream 2 nights in a row where my daughter's and it was my daughter's dad of all people for me to dream of. And he passed away several years ago. And in these dreams, he was hurt and I was trying to help him. And he was argumentative like always. But it didn't start off as him. It started off like with my caregiver, Jack. And then when I went over and looked at him again, it was my daughter's dad.
Wow.
So I had talked to Steve and he's like, well, do you think there might be some kind of a message in that? I said, honestly, I think it's my daughter. My daughter moved away and they're trying to get work here back in Texas so they could move back. Well, she told me today that her husband got a job in Denver, Colorado. And I went, oh, God. Whew. And so I told her, well, this is what you guys can do. Let them work. Y'all work, save money, and then keep looking for jobs here and put your money away so you've got the money to just up and go. That's all you can do. She's like, I know. But they were trying to get back here. But she moved away from here because she said this state was too red for her. She went to Missouri and then ended up in Kansas with my cousin. And then was mad because, well, it turned into a red state. So now she's going to Colorado.
Yeah.
Of all the places, the one good thing that I just keep praying about, my daughter has decided that her 2-year-old son will not be going to any schools. He's going to be homeschooled. And I'm like,
Oh,
thank you.
yeah.
Thank you. If anything good comes out of it, that child will be homeschooled. So,
Yeah, praise God. And that's the other part, is that we have, when you know that these people have been programmed to get involved in the New Age practices, the most important thing, Susie, as we were talking before, the most important thing is that if you are dabbling in the New Age practices, your dedication to having a personal relationship with Yeshua, our Messiah, is diminished. And that's why it's so critically important that we not engage, because it's too easy for the New Age practices to yoke you to a fallen angel, which is
True.
a demon. And so
Yes.
that's been something that I've been doing for the last 3 years, is really counseling with people who really, really enjoy their psychic, their experience with their psychic. They really, really enjoy their tarot cards or their astrology. Or I have one good friend, she's like, I learned all about the Greek gods and I'm an expert and I don't want to throw that out because this is all Greek mythology and I'm good at it. And I was just like, they're fallen angels. And so,
Well, you know, I did a whole show on Casey. On the in the Bible, it talks about the book of the wars of the Lord. Okay, and in that book, it tells you that Zeus, the Greek god, what basically is the false god, and it talks about Zeus, and then who worked for Zeus was Osiris, Baal, and Ashtaroth, and those were the gods that all worked together under Zeus. So there's truth in these stories about these people, or these so-called, that's why it says in Psalms, God sits in the council of the gods and judges amongst the gods. But we're not talking about the good gods. We're talking about
we're
a
talking
whole
about the
bunch of
fallen ones. Yeah.
bad gods that,
Mhm.
like bad politicians, have been ruling and controlling this planet for a long, long, long time. So they're not necessarily fallen angels, okay, in that sense, but they are fallen, okay. But they had classifications, like in politics. They were the top one, like the president, was called God. The vice presidents were called Lord God. So if you saw the word Lord in front of God, he was second ranking, like a vice president.
Mhm.
Then you had lords under that. Then you had the generals, and then they had their angels, and then they had their demons. So this is their they had huge kingdoms, okay, that ruled over different peoples, and still do, and certain people still worship these false gods. Now, I was looking into last night. This is really interesting. I was researching Zeus because we talked about that Moses had horns, okay, and then in the book of Judas it says, Jesus says, "I see your horn rising, Judas. It's starting to rise." So we're talking about, why did Moses have horns? Well, if you go back to Zeus had horns. He had ram's horns. Okay, Zeus did, and so Jesus went to, it says, to Caesarea Philippi, Caesarea, or whatever, which one it is. He went to the Mount. This is the story about the fallen angels, that 200 came down on Mount Hermon, which is between Israel, Lebanon, and Syria, right? That's Mount Hermon. And the UN has their main headquarters at the head of Mount Hermon. Okay, so at the base of Mount Hermon, this is where Jesus took Peter, and it's kind of weird because he took him to Zeus's temple and Pan's grotto. Pan, so Peter went to see Pan, like Peter Pan in the movies. So they throw all this stuff in the movies, right? So he stood in front of Pan's grotto, which was, Pan was the guardian of hell. So Zeus, if you didn't follow Zeus, okay, then Pan would take you to hell, to Hades, and Hades was a son of Zeus. Now it says written on the wall in Israel, if you go there, it says that Pan was the son of Zeus. Pan was the goat god, okay? Zeus had horns like a goat, okay, a ram. Pan had horns, but Pan would have sex with animals and women and everything, right? Okay, so these were the false gods that were ruling at that time. And so Jesus went there, remember in the Bible, and he says, upon this rock I will build my church, and the gates of hell shall not prevail. And he was speaking against Zeus and Pan, okay? And so I think that Hollywood, with the horns and everything, like the goat, right? They do the hand thing, and then the Baphomet and all that. That's all related to the false god Zeus and his children with the horns. And I think when Pan would mix with the humans, I think that's why Moses probably had horns coming out of his head, because he was a bloodliner. Okay, so these things, and then there was a story about where, at the time of Christ, it was told by, I think Tiberius had mentioned, and wrote it in his writings, that Pan, the god Pan, had died at that time. At the time, he actually died while Christ was on the earth. Weird stories, but these gods have been, real and ruling, but they're all false gods. So,
Monica, are you there?
I'm here. Can you hear me? But my video just went.
where did you go?
I
You
don't know.
vanished.
Her video, her screen turned green.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
You
Okay,
might want to leave.
Can I
and come
share
back.
something really quick?
Yeah.
Because we talked about that the other day, and the first depiction in art was in Michelangelo, that he gave Moses horns, but it says here that it comes from the word keron, mistranslated, and the word shone. So what it is the Quran is the Hebrew word used to describe Moses' face after he spoke with God on Mount Sinai. The context of the passage suggests that Moses' face was bright and shining rather than literally horned. Because
Well, there was more to that, though, than that interpretation of what you're reading, because that's a man's interpretation again. I'm always leery of when somebody interprets something you read, because it said his face was terrible and they were scared of Moses. It didn't look good. Like, he was terrifying.
well, it said I thought I looked in the Bible. I mean, it's hard because you have to really know
When I
that.
was researching about the Lord, the Book of the War, it was saying that Yahweh was actually Zeus. And so that would give reason to why the horns popped out of his head after he met with the horned god. That's my take on it. So, because there were many gods in the Old Testament, many, many gods. And then there's also a story in the Old Testament about the god Clemens or whatever, who fought a battle against Yahweh or Zeus and beat him, and all the prophecies that Yahweh had put out were broken, or they didn't come because this other god who was over the Moabites. So when you read the Old Testament, it's about all these different gods. And my opinion is God
Elohim. Yeah.
is they were physical beings. That is not the Most High, who's a spirit, because I believe that the true God is a spirit. No man can see him or ever will see him, because he's in the spirit form. These are all names given to people in high power, high authority, not necessarily good. Okay. Now, Sabaoth, which I believe from what I read, Jehovah Sabaoth is actually good because he turned to Christ and he follows Christ. If these gods do not follow Christ, okay, and that's why in the New Testament it said the Lord Sabaoth, okay, he supposedly rejected these other gods and follows Christ. So Jehovah Sabaoth is a good, loving, kind. That's why he said in one of the scriptures that I detest your sacrifices. I detest your burnt offerings. I want a right and contrite heart. I never asked for sacrifices. It was the other gods that were having people sacrifice, like Ashtaroth, Baal, Osiris, Zeus. They were all known as, like, Zeus was known as the tyrant god, the tyrant, you know. And if you read the story of Zeus, you go back to Uranus was his, right? Uranus, and then Uranus had who was the father, or who was the son of Uranus, or the father of Zeus? It was he the one that you always see, the eating the children, you know, that god, the one that's eating, because he ate Zeus.
Moloch?
He ate, no, the father of Zeus.
Okay.
You had Uranus and oh gosh, maybe somebody, I can't even think of who that god. These gods would like, they were like titans.
Susie, yeah, Susie,
Huh?
why, if we're born again Christians, like, why are we still like giving so much power to the Old Testament? Because isn't that like what humanity had to do? Yeah, those are the fallen gods, are they not?
They see, but here's the key right here, Casey. I don't discourage people reading the Old Testament and studying it, because if you study it, you can rightly divide the Word of God. So you study and you learn about who the right ones are, the wrong ones are, so that you're not giving worship or credit to the false gods or the wrong gods, okay? Because that's why it's all about discernment, right? You got to discern between who's on the side of Jesus and who is independently doing their own thing and rejecting, Christ, right? So that's why you'd want to read the Old Testament, but it can be confusing because of how many translations it's gone through, and it's been minimized down so much that you really have to go back, and you have to really like I've spent, I can't even tell you how many hours of my entire life researching this stuff, trying to figure it out,
Yeah,
it's complicated.
That is exactly why when I'm dealing with my survivors during the Black Awakening at such a time as this, we don't have the luxury of examining that. It's like, get right with your Messiah, get right with Yeshua, and check yourself on the 7 deadly sins, because they are deadly. They're identified as deadly for a reason. Deal with the temple just the way the Bible tells you, through prayer and fasting. And then what happens is, in my survivors, if they come together and they've deparasited and they're excreting heavy metals, what tends to happen is their dissociated parts tend to come together when we meet. So when we are coming together and we're talking about the trauma of their day or their week, the things that trigger them that week that are still have them mired down in drama are the ones that are pulling them back into the network. And so I can very easily, if I can get somebody centered, but I have survivors who don't like Jesus, and they were tortured by somebody that acted like Jesus or pretended to be Jesus. And so
they do that on purpose too, Casey.
That's exactly right. And so that's why it's so important. Like, I've gone to the point where, like, I refer to Jesus as Yeshua because they did not have the letter J. They also did not have the letter G for God. So there's some manipulation that's been going on there. So it's so important. So as you mentioned earlier about the discernment, I'm with you 100%. but not everybody has access to their full discernment, especially if they've been dissociated and they're basically dealing with
That's
multiple
why it's
parts.
just best to when you address the Most High, you just call him Father. Don't give him a name. Just call him Father, and know that he's the Father of truth and goodness and righteousness, and he is nothing evil or deviant in any. He's none of those. He's none of those 7 sins. Okay, he's not any of those. He's just pure. He's pure. Okay, he's like absolutely 100%
When you're
pure.
dealing with people in the network, I'm going to tell you, these people have issues with self-loathing. They have issues with addiction. They have issues with functioning day to day. They have issues in their relationships. They have issues with their children and their parents. And so you've got to understand that I'm dealing with like an extremely broken soul. And when you're dealing with an extremely broken soul, you have to get down to the simplicities of it. That means you get down with your Lord and Savior, Yeshua, your Messiah, in the morning, at the moment you wake up, and you check yourself. You check yourself.
You know what? Even if they don't know about Jesus, and all that, because the church has kind of contaminated a lot of stuff too. Okay, that's no joke. But if they would just call on the Father, the Most High, and you believe in your heart, okay, I believe that the Most High Father will reach down and help that person. Okay, and we just live. That's where we trust and we give it to God, but not a false God, but in the Most High. Okay, we give it to Him, and then we allow Him to fix the person, and then He will lead that person to Christ. Yeah.
I agree, because Jesus went to be with the Father. So when you summon your Father, you're summoning Jesus as well. However, we are living in a time where humanity is sacrificing children and adults, but specifically children, systematically through individuals who have infiltrated all levers of power on planet Earth. So I think I agree with you, Susie, but at the same time, this is what I call a triage moment. And you remember when you met me, I was leading the triage team. And the other thing that I want to mention is that when I was leading the triage team, most of the individuals that participated, Brenda being an exception, were not really addressing their recovery. They were really, really in it. They were still in their CP,
like Tommy.
PTSD.
Susie. Tommy is a great example.
Yes, and Tommy is like
broken.
so. Tommy being so attacked by the network, he's one of my brothers that I never ever would judge him, because it's like he's being attacked on levels that none of us can understand. So when they come to me, I know that number one, their parasites are attacking them. Their heavy metal toxicity is dropping downloads into their freaking brain. And literally the only way that anybody is going to cope is like doing something that may blow up their life. So that's what I deal with. I deal with survivors that literally have like some irons in the fire that are so hot that if a normal person comes along, they might say, oh, just, get over that. You're depressed or you're this and that. No, shut up. You don't know what you're talking about. This is way bigger. This is you've got anybody that is as deep in the network as me and Tommy and Monica. And that's what I'm talking about, the programming.
Yeah.
We have to totally, I give them 100% of my attention and 100% of my love. And I never judge them, because they're being tortured.
Right.
Yeah.
24/7.
It's like I have another guy that comes on here. He does spiritual cryptid and encounters. And I've often heard him say, anger, rage, depression, all of that is a spiritual opening for very bad things.
Yeah.
Which is, yes, Brenda. And that's exactly why I bring my survivors to check themselves to the 7 deadly sins. Because you're talking about pride.
Yep.
You're actually naming, those are demons and their name. There's
Yes.
a demon of rage,
Well,
demon
yes.
of
Spirit. Yeah.
depression. Yes,
Mhm.
So pride, lust, envy,
yes,
anger, wrath,
jealousy. Yeah,
Greed.
sloth, gluttony, and greed. So when
Yeah.
I wake up in the morning, I go in that order because I've formulated that into please, like these are pleas to God, PLEAS, GG. GG is my grandma name. So to me, it's something that I created for my morning devotions where I just get out of bed and the first thing I do is like, Yeshua, I need your help. Center me. And now I got to check myself. Where am I at on pride? Where am I at on lust? Where am I at on envy? Where am I at with my anger? These are all open doors to the demonic. Where am I at on sloth, gluttony, and greed? So when I check myself for a survivor, that's what we must do. And then we check in with each other. We're just like, how are you doing? Oh, fuck. I'm not having a good day. My hair's on fire. And I almost,
Right?
And it's so hard because in the programming, through that compartmentalization, right? People will be talking in, one soul trauma over here, and then they'll switch on you and go to another one. And so they've been so like, I was under heavy spiritual abuse all my life. And a lot of these people have been. So it's such a manipulation because it makes it really hard. You have to really dig deep to heal from these traumas. Wouldn't you agree, Casey? Because if you don't, that other altar is going to switch over and take over, so you
100%.
can't get to, understand the true character of God because you've been so.
Yeah, you can't dabble in things. You got to be all in with Yeshua.
Yes.
Because Father God is amazing. I don't disagree, but we live on a planet where they have created so many individuals, be it the saints and even Archangel Michael. We've got all of these individuals that are in between us and God, in between us and Jesus. No,
Mother Mary.
directly. Yeah, I'm going directly to Yeshua, and I'm going to be like, Lord, we do not have the luxury of short. We don't have the luxury of doing this the soft way. We have to go hard, sincerely hard. We're in it, and I'm not going to mention names, but I'm going to tell you that I'm, as you could possibly imagine, I've been in very close contact with some individuals that have been blowing the whistle for 30 years, individuals who have been through hell and back and are still in hell. And I'm going to tell you that the strongest ones, the people who've been through the most, they're the ones that are the most attacked right now. And that's very, very difficult for me because the ones that, people go, oh, you're a badass, and I am. But you know what? That doesn't stop me from having days where I just literally just go, holy shit, I can't do it. I literally, I'm helping all these people, and I will literally have a day where I'm just like, oh man, this is too much, Lord. I just can't do this. This is too much, Lord. This is bad.
I hear you, Casey. I hear you. I mean, we're human. I mean, we get tired.
And every
it
day.
gets heavy.
Every day.
Yeah.
Yes. And some days I just go, and so humility, that's why I stand in front of my damn refrigerator. Because I've got before I figured out the PLEAS GG, because A is actually kind of cheating because it's wrath. But I switched it to anger so that I would have this, anagram or whatever. And so I'm just like, okay, Lord, I'm just like, so I have to check myself with these because if I'm slipping and sliding in any of these 7 areas, I'm going to fall. Somebody's going to trip me up. I'm not necessarily going to fall on my face. I'm not going to fail. But man, that doesn't mean they can't get me. They can't get me and
They're going to knock you off your path a little bit. Yeah.
They're going to slam me to the ground. They're going to be like, you down, bitch. I'm like,
I know. I'll say to those spirits, the Lord rebuke you. Get out.
Amen.
I'm not putting up with it anymore. I think it was huge for me when I realized that the fruits of the Spirit are God, right? And then when I was able to understand that anything negative, anything arrogant, anything mean natured, all of that is not of God. And so when I kind of rationalized it
You're
in a
right.
different way, when those, when those thoughts would come into my head or something, I would know immediately. It just clicked on one day and it was like, oh, that's not of God. That's the devil, And so I
Yep.
was able to kind of come out of that where I didn't buy into those voices and buy into, those negative words that they were putting in my spirit and everything, and not coming into agreement with it. You do not agree with it, because Satan he's very tricky, and all of his demons and stuff,
Right.
they will try and get you to agree with what they're saying, and that gives them legal right. And so, when you're a child and you're brought up in the system, they heavily psychologically will abuse you. They say that the physical is bad, don't get me wrong, but they're saying the psychological is even worse, because they're getting in your soul and in your mind, and
Yep.
you are starting to come into agreement with what those demons have spoke over you. So you've got to break that. You've got to break that contract, break that agreement in Jesus' name. And yeah,
let me
that was
tell you.
helpful for me big time.
Yeah, let me tell you about something about that. So my ex-husband, his mother says he's very special. But my ex-husband, and I don't know how he did it, he snuck in through a back door, but he mentally abused me for 2.5 years without me even realizing what he was doing.
See,
Until
that's alignment.
until I started to see,
Aligned.
wait a minute, he's pulling me away from my family. He is pulling me away from my friends. He wants me to go on my Facebook and eliminate anybody who was a guy.
Yep.
And I was like, wait a minute, what am I doing? What am I doing? So, the whole, even, and it's hard for people to believe sometimes when you're in one of the mentally abusive relationships, it's hard to walk away from that.
Absolutely, I
It's
agree.
not physical, but that mental right there, when they get into your psyche, it's like, oh, and you think, I can't live without this person. That's one of the first things you think. And it got to the point where he got in my face one day and I was like, oh no. Give me a reason. Because I'll shoot you in the face. I mean, I had up to here. So and it was weird when I figured it out, what he was doing. Then once I took my power back, he had nothing. Absolutely nothing. And to this day, he will message me, how are you? Good. He has no more power, no more control over me at all.
You know what that reminds me of, Brenda? There's a scripture that says, when I was a child, I spoke like a child, but now that I'm an adult. So it's like we grow up and go from being, children that are told what to do to being independent, and now saying, wait, I don't have to go along with that. I don't have to be put through that,
But not a lot of women can walk away from that because they're weak. And where he screwed up was he tried to treat me like he did his baby's mama. Is that how they say it? Yeah. But I was a little bit stronger. And like I said, I don't know how he got away with it for 2.5 years. I didn't even see it. I had blinders on. But boy, I'll tell you what, when those blinders came off, that was all throat. I was like, oh no, 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 no. So
yeah, that's how they do it. They are assigned because
that's why they go after you when you're a child, guys.
What was
Every
that?
one of us were targeted as children.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I want to share something with you, and I'm trying to pull up the scripture. It was Matthew. You guys might know it. But when I was going down to the courthouse, and I was going through with the divorce, the scripture that God gave me that morning was, you can cast out demons, but if you don't have love, you don't have anything. You can be the nicest person, but if you don't have love, like you can be a hero in the town, but if you don't have love, right? So these narcissistic personalities that I believe have been created in the system, that they will hunt people down, and they know who we are and
Yes.
who has the Christ light in them and who doesn't. And they will be assigned to you until we learn that that is the opposite of the fruits of the Spirit, right? Actions speak louder than words. And
Yes.
so it's, when I was leaving the state where the shooting happened, I was having a conversation with God, and it went something like this. I'm like, God, why do I keep on getting in these relationships, and why am I surrounded by these people? And
Yep.
he's like, well, I can take you out, but you have to do the work to see and
Yeah.
surrender it to me, trust in me, and I will start to show you how to truly leave. And because I couldn't figure it out for the longest time, because I was so inundated with this, I thought everything was my fault, and then I would come out of that for a minute, but then the psychological abuse would be so heavy that, I mean, literally, I thought everything, was centered around what I did and didn't do, and, stuff
Yeah.
like that. And I realized too, that that's divination against God as well, because I'm thinking that I can fix this situation, or like if somebody abused me, then I would just, forget it. That's how they trained me up in the system, to just take it. And then, oh, what do you want for dinner? Like my mom used to do to me.
Oh my
They
gosh, right?
would love bomb you for sometimes months, right?
We know
And
about
For
her.
years.
Just like that. You're like, what happened? And then after that was over, he said, oh, okay, well, he was just having a hard day.
Monica, will you explain what love bombing is? So, because
No,
I'm
what
sure
is
there's
it?
people probably have not heard that. What is love bombing?
Oh, love bombing. Okay, so when you're raised in an SRA family, what they'll do, it's part of the training, that they will actually, all their raping, sexual stuff that they do to us, all the psychological stuff, it is all part of the system. They do it routinely so that it will fracture your mind, if you understand. So what happens is that in a family, what they'll do, and this is just an example of a child. So a child, they will love bomb you. You will be close to that parent. That parent will love on you for the first couple of years. Then once you feel safe, that parent will then turn on you and become
And
your,
then they go back to loving you again.
and then
and-
they go back to loving you, and back and forth. Like I was raised, my mom would curse God on a daily with manifesting demons, and she would say that she hated me. She wished I was never born. I'm disgusting to her. She hopes that I die, and then she'll turn around and be like, oh, what do you want for dinner? Oh, we're going to do this and this and this tonight. And it's like you were constantly walking on eggshells. You didn't know, and then the abuse would get more and more brutal. So they start out, but they have to do it a certain way, because then once they break you and compartmentalize your brain, then those demons can come in like a highway, and you're assigned at a young age to be, I was to be submissive. I was to take the abuse. I was to then be made to be crazy, that it was all in my head, right? So that's what they do, and that's what narcissists do, and that's why it's all demonic, because that's exactly what they do. There's no fruits of the spirit in a narcissist until they come out of it. You know, I'm hoping and praying that they come out of it, because those are also the ones that are going to be activated too. So
Yeah.
that's just
And
part of it, right? That's a symptom to say this person has demons, and you know, what are we going to do about it? How do we handle this? Because if they don't wake up, they are going to be activated, and they are going to be
Well,
the next
they're going to be activated regardless. Yeah, of whether or not they wake up. It's so we were Monica and I were talking about really wanting to address the narcissism. So are you guys planning on doing a break real quick, or for the next
No.
subject, or
Go ahead.
okay.
Go ahead.
All right, so what we were talking about, because Monica and I had talked for hours, and I could talk to her for probably 12 hours. We were just talking about.
Right?
So this is what I experienced. I've come to the belief system that narcissism is caused by extreme heavy metal toxicity, and it causes psychopathy, sociopathy. And the reason that I came to this conclusion is because when I was a child, and my mother, she was diagnosed bipolar multiple personality disorder and extreme depressive disorder. And I witnessed the bipolar, where she would be manic and depressive. However, I asked myself a question. I would watch her. She would, looking back on it, because as a child, I hadn't figured this out. But when you look back on it, you can make sense of things. So there was this pattern where every 9 or 12 months, she would function fairly well. And every 9 or 12 months, they would send her out, not just on her regular gigs, but as a honeypot. Because she would come back, and she had this thing where she would tell me, because she abandoned me. I wasn't even in her life. But all of a sudden she would pop up, and I'd get a phone call from my mom, and I had to manage her psychosis.
Mm-hmm.
I was like the person assigned, and I'm like a child. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. You're the only one that can handle your mom. She's calling. You got to handle her. So I would get my mom on the phone, and the things that she would say was, "I'm not a slut, and I don't do drugs." And I'm like,
What?
well, yeah. I'm like, okay. So, and she would repeat herself over and over again. And then she was also hallucinating. Okay. So I was like, I was taking in her hallucinations. It was very clear that she was hallucinating. And then she would say she's not a slut, which is true. My mother was not a slut. She was not promiscuous. She was in Hollywood. She was selling herself. She was willing to sell me. She was willing to let me be fondled by Dean Martin, but she was not promiscuous. She was not one of those slutty women. So, as far as that I witnessed. Now, this woman,
You
she
were
would
her
get very,
sacrifice. Oh my God.
that's exactly right. And so I'm glad you noticed that, Susie. So anyway, so she sacrificed me to further her career, but she did not compromise herself. However, every 9 to 12 months, she had some sort of an episode. I think they were using her as a honeypot. They would drug her. Now, this is a woman who drank Jack Daniels and Coca-Cola, so she was always a wide awake drunk from the caffeine and the Jack Daniels, and then she would pop copious amounts of Valium. So when she would say, "I don't do drugs," I'm like, "Dude, I'm watching you pop Valium like candy." But no, she was talking about street drugs.
Prescription drugs. Yeah. My
She
mom
would
did
get-
prescription drugs. Yeah.
Yep.
My mom
and
did
so-
alcohol,
My mom
and
drank and did prescription pills. Yeah. Lots of them.
Yeah, but she would never do street drugs, and she wasn't a slut. And I was like, okay, I get it, Mom. And then I tied things back together. I won't give you the whole story, but basically over many, many years of counseling people, including people that were abused in that mafia family where I was betrothed to the head of the mafia's son. I witnessed this pattern that was happening. And so I'm like, this light went off where I was just like, oh my gosh. So when my mother would say she wasn't a slut and she didn't do drugs, she had been drugged and utilized as a honeypot.
yeah,
And it was so contrary to who she was as a person that it would cause her to splinter. And then I'd have to put her in a psych ward. That's when the hallucinations would come up and her programming would start to falter. And so I was the person that they would call strangely enough, because I was always in communication with her psychiatrist, who was a woman named Janelle Ramsberg, who was obviously in the network, along with her Johnny Sandusky, who was her agent, who was obviously in the network. Like Sandusky,
Right.
Ohio is a witch town and all this kind of stuff. So it's like all of these network players had me as their contact person. And so I would keep them in the know as to whether or not she was freaking out or if she could show up for a gig.
Mhm.
And so I was the one that had to check her into the psych wards every 9 to 12 months on a regular basis throughout my childhood. So what I noticed is that she would act like a bipolar person when just before they used her as a honeypot. When they used her as a honeypot, she would get electric shock therapy or radium. She would be in a psych ward for a very long period of time. I would go visit her. She was like a zombie.
Wow,
that,
Casey.
yeah. I mean, I spent my
A lot.
childhood visiting my mom in a psych ward. And then she would come out. When she would come out of the psych ward, she was no longer in crisis. Okay. So that means that she wasn't screaming. She wasn't hallucinating. She also was not bipolar. So she didn't
go into a different altar. Is that what you're thinking?
What I'm saying,
She was
what
in
I'm
her
really
right mind
saying,
when she came out, but not before.
she did not experience behavior that was consistent with a bipolar diagnosis, where before she would go in, she would have manic episodes and depressive episodes, and manic
Uh-huh.
They were
episodes
making
and
her
depressive
do
episodes.
they were making her do things contrary to what she wanted to do.
But
Yeah.
when she would come out of programming, she was actually loving, present, but she had no memory. So they wiped her memory.
Right.
So she couldn't be traumatized, but she had no memory. So she was like a good person.
That's
for
why
like 3
she was
months.
successful at coming out, because they wiped her memory.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
she would come out and she would be the best mom ever. Like she loved, speaking of love bombing, I love you. You're so amazing. I love you so much. You saved my life.
Wow.
And blah, blah, blah.
I never
And so-
got that from my mom ever.
Yeah. So it was all to get me to do things. So, it wasn't sincere. So what I understood was that
Manipulation. Yeah.
it was a manipulation. So what I understood was that my mother did not have this psychosis of this bipolar diagnosis after programming. It would take her a period of several months. So I actually, when in my 20s, I said, I don't believe that bipolar exists, because I watched my mom break out of bipolar disorder and then function normally.
Well, she probably had it, but it was suppressed when she came out.
No. You're not understanding me. We're talking, this woman cycled so extreme
Right.
that she was either in her bed. If she wasn't at her gig, she was in her bed 18 hours. She would not get out of that bed. And
Well, I
then
do believe too that they can control it in certain situations.
I don't know. Let me finish what I'm saying, and then you can comment. So she would not have bipolar disorder where she had it markedly. She was what they call a rapid cycler. She was a rapid cycler. Like I would wake up and my mom would be like, "Hey, I'm going to start a business today, and I just bought all the stuff, and we're going to do this." And I would just be like, "Oh shit!" And I would have to participate in I remember one year she was going to do Easter baskets, and she was going to rent this place at Crown Center, which was like a very expensive mall kiosk, and she was going to sell Easter baskets, and she was going to to really rich and famous people.
Yeah.
And I was just like. And it all petered out. She had it all planned out, and she bought all the shit, and she bankrupted herself buying everything. And then when it came time for her to show up, she couldn't do it. So
your mom really went through hell. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. So this is my theory, and I'm going to put that out there, and I want you guys to comment, especially you, Monica, that I think that narcissism, which is a combination of sociopathy and psychopathy, bipolar, borderline, that all of these so-called psychiatric diseases are created by the Luciferian Brotherhood through certain levels of heavy metal toxicity combined with drug use and sexual use. Demons. Yes, absolutely.
I agree.
So that's what I'm going to say. I don't think, because you know what? Let's think about our childhood. Did you guys ever hear of the term narcissism? Not really.
Nope.
But
No.
everybody, it's
No.
like the buzzword of today. And that's because we've got all these IVF babies And I'm just going to put that out there. Okay. We've been hybridizing humanity. We've been splicing and dicing humanity with reptiles, with the DNA of reptiles, with the DNA of dolphins,
Werewolves,
whales, wolves,
vampires,
Yep.
drinking blood.
Okay, and
Oh.
that, and then most recently with things that we all know we can't say on YouTube, which is cone snails, snakes, cats,
Yeah.
bats, penguins,
Yep.
chickens.
The days of Noah.
So they've figured out a way
Sounds
to
like
get that.
Pan at work.
Yeah, so they
Yeah.
figured out a way to get that into our systems, and now we're all consuming
Yeah.
human embryonic kidney cells through Pepsi and Coca-Cola and our hamburger meat and so on and so forth. So
Right.
that being the case, we all have heavy metal toxicity, and I believe with 29 years of dealing with people who have these disorders, I think that it's heavy metal toxicity, parasitic infestation, coupled with demon oppression and demon possession that
Yeah.
created these psychiatric conditions, and that the drugs that they rolled out to deal with these so-called even ADHD and ADD, those are all heavy metal toxicity. The drugs they rolled out was to enslave humanity. And I'm
Yep.
going to say that the entire psychiatric community was designed specifically to poison us and to create these psychoses, because I grew up as a child with a very, my mother was off the charts psychotic.
I know
And
it
they-
sounds like are the same mom.
Yeah, so my mom was like so entertaining. I mean, she was
Mhm.
doing Tina Turner on stage and everybody loved her. She was so effective. But imagine her in a normal setting in a family. So she was so off the charts that I spent my entire childhood with people looking at me because my mother was a professional singer. She had me singing when I was 3 years old, and then I was on the road with her when I was 7, 8, 9 years old, being molested by Dean Martin. Everybody in my family waiting for me to become a bipolar psycho.
It's interesting you say that, all what you just said, Casey, like you take all of that like in a bubble, because what I'm thinking, that book that the Bible references, the War of the Lords, it said that Zeus, the tyrant, got so mad at the humans, like he was always doing bad stuff to humans. He would have his angels and demons or whatever spray this poison into the air, like in
Well,
chemtrail
that
kind of
sounds
stuff,
familiar.
so that we would breathe it in and get sick. And what he put in there was rotten, dead animals. Okay, like death, and so that you would get sick and die. So that's kind of maybe where the Pandora's box story came from, when that but it's in the book talking about that's how he would punish the humans, make them sick, get viruses, and through breathing it in the air. Yeah.
Yes. Because now the doctors are saying there's no such thing as viruses, only compromised bodies, and that bacteria. So it's
The
very, very
bacteria,
interesting.
the parasites. Yeah.
Mhm.
You're right.
And
yeah.
like how many hospital systems won't even test for parasites? And I've dealt with like nurses that are injured in this whole drama that we're dealing with, and they're like, "Yeah, I tried to like go get a test to determine what kind of parasites I had." Like you were saying, Brenda, it's like, "Oh, let's do a test." Most of those tests come back cleared, like because the computer system blocks it out. Even if they put it at the bottom of it, and there's just like, okay.
Well, what you could
want
do,
to-
Casey, you could take some stool to the veterinarian and ask him if he would test it.
Right?
So, oh my gosh, that's brilliant. Except
That's
for
what I
they've
told my
targeted.
doctor when I asked them for a pill. They were like, "Well," and I didn't even give them a chance to say anything. I said, "Either you give me something, or I'll go to the vet and I'll get it there." And
Yes.
he's like, "Oh no, don't do that." I'm like, "Yeah."
But you know what? They're poisoning.
Locked us
They're poisoning our
during
pets.
the- Oh, sorry.
They're poisoning our pets too.
Yeah.
Yeah, but look how much they locked us down during the pandemic, and they censored us when the other countries that were using ivermectin, they didn't have a problem. They didn't want us to be treated because they knew it would work.
100%. And they did
Exactly.
also, more importantly, they did not want us free of parasites. And so I've been deparasiting for 4 years now, and I will never stop. Never. It's like that's my thing. That's my thing. Before the full moon, I'm down to the point where I only have to deparasite once a month. It's like 3 days before the full moon, and then all the little babies hatch, and and then I go 3 days. I wait like 5 days, and then I go 3 days after, and then I'm good for a month.
Yeah, I'm going to get back on it. I haven't taken my ivermectin in a while, but I've been eating clean.
I took some yesterday.
It's helping me out. If it has more than like 5 ingredients, I don't put it in my mouth no more. I don't care what it is, because God woke me up a long time ago to all this stuff, and like McDonald's and stuff. And I'm just like, oh my gosh, these people are.
Well, if you talk to people in the network, they're going to tell you that cranberry juice is full of, let's just say, human remains.
Yeah.
Almost every fast food place.
I didn't hear cranberry juice. Wow, that's
yeah. You know why? They tell you too. Like if you're on an SSRI or something, they'll say don't drink cranberry juice, and that's because it's known that it's got human cells in it for sure. Because what they determined when they're getting rid of bodies is that a decomposing body is very similar to decomposing fruit. And cranberries in particular are the most effective at hiding the smell of decomposition. So that's why they ended up using.
Gosh.
Yeah, that's why. Yeah, cranberry juice.
Doggone it. I drink a little bit of that every now and then because I have kidney problems, just to make sure I don't get a bladder infection. Or when I start to get one, I'll drink.
I never heard that, Casey.
It goes away.
Yeah, get some cranberries. Just get some real cranberries and make your own cranberry juice, because it's bad. It's really bad.
So I've been trying to stay away from sugar because cancer also grows and is fed off the sugar. So I'm trying.
I was watching a thing the other day. The doctors are showing the cancer. All the cancer cells are actually parasites.
Yeah.
In your body.
Yes. They are infestations of parasites and clusters of parasite eggs.
Yeah. So then sugar feeds off of all of this then. So sugar is, I heard this a couple of weeks ago, is that sugar was the best weapon that Satan could have, right?
Well,
because it's spirit.
Do you remember that scene in The Men in Black where that alien crashes and he goes in the house and he makes that woman make him all that sugar water, and he's
well, my doctor
can't drink enough sugar.
That was like that's how I kind of describe when Rob was taken over by those demons, when he was completely, he wasn't left in there when he came back from the desert.
Yeah,
and
my doctor told me
it was exactly like that experience.
Yeah, and my doctor told me that when you crave something sweet, it's the parasites. The parasites want it.
That is exactly why. That's exactly why they're so akin to demonic possession, because they can actually drive you to cravings, and they can also drive you to do things that God doesn't want you to do, of a sexual nature, of a nature with drugs and alcohol, you name it. Yeah.
Well, here's another interesting thing, because I because of the Norse story of why Loki killed Balder with the mistletoe. Okay, mistletoe, or should we say Hollywood, the plant. Okay, 100%. Mistletoe. It is actually what they call a parasite plant. It can't live on its own. It has to have a host, and it has to drain off of the host. So that's what Hollywood or mistletoe plant actually is. And so think about why they name Hollywood Hills is a bunch of parasites, living off the host,
literally parasites.
So true. So true, Susie. Yes.
I can't wait when we get to the Diddy files.
I heard they dropped. Today.
just let's get this out here. Let's not hide this
There-
anymore. And
It's
this
getting there. I
administration-
hear it's getting.
Yeah.
It's
this administration under Trump, man, he promises
the
made-
FBI. The new FBI guy is gonna like work real hard
Yeah.
to get it all out there. Yeah.
Oh,
Wait
yeah.
till you see
all out
Oprah, LeBron James, all of them exposed.
Yeah.
Like the Diddy is nothing.
Yeah.
He's a pimple on the butt.
Yeah.
Right?
I'm not kidding. He is a pimple on the butt of this problem. I'm not exaggerating. Not
Right.
even.
This is
It's yeah.
I
This
hope
is
a lot
he's
of
the
people will
tiniest.
get to this. The only
Yeah.
problem is that everybody, like, back in the day, you'd have to watch your TV, right? Now people can avoid watching the TV. They can watch TikTok or all these other apps and avoid seeing what's going on. And they're the ones that need to be woken up,
Well,
know?
And
the
they
thing
are.
of it is they shouldn't be watching like the mainstream news either.
Yeah.
that's-
Oh, yeah.
No, but you know what?
Right
There's
view
Work.
news.
Yeah, they've been lying. But I guess they're being taken down. Sorry to get off topic, but
Yeah.
That's good.
they're being
Oh, it's all
removed.
topic.
Yeah.
well,
Well,
I think we're bringing him into submission. Yeah, Monica, I think so.
Yeah. And I'm hoping, well, another thing I wanted to say, a side note, have you guys heard about the crystal, water studies? And if you pray over the water or you speak, positive, or you say Jesus' name or God's name, that the water will
Responds to it.
form- It responds. And it also responds to evil. If you say Satan or you say something mean to it or whatever, it forms a most disgusting, like crystal water thing. So
I'll tell you what, I lived behind a water treatment plant and that place
Yeah.
stinks
Yeah.
bad.
no good. No
No.
good.
No.
But what I was trying to say is that there's a reason that they say to pray over your food. And I always have to remember to do it because I'm not always perfect. But these parasites, the main ingredient, the main key to this.
Good point. You just hit me. And
Right.
like that's
Susie,
a good
hang on.
point, Monica. Why you pray over your water before you drink it? Yeah.
Because you've heard, right? You've heard people that have been in bondage all their life and they have an encounter with Jesus, they're healed in Jesus' name right there and then. So yes, it's all the frequency, it's all this, parasites, all this.
Think about why
But-
water baptism is important too.
Mhm. Yeah.
The whole washing
Whole
away
Mm-hmm.
of the
Yes.
old.
So that can
Yeah.
break off the parasites too. So if we're doing our part and partnering with God and we're praying over our food and we're asking for protection, nowadays, I am actually asking God to protect my DNA from manipulation. That's like on a
Yes.
daily prayer.
Yeah.
And from the helmet of salvation is also to protect, to hold thoughts captive to God, but also against harmful frequencies and mind control. So that I'm protected there too. And so, yes, so that combination, we're going to awaken our pineal glands and even become closer to God the Father, and so I just wanted to share that because
Yeah. And
we're
also,
we're in a fight daily.
Yeah.
This is
and what
every-
Monica was saying too is like with those frequencies, it's important to decalcify your pineal gland because they put fluoride in our water for a reason.
Yes.
So these antiparasitics and excreting heavy metals, even if you're only fasting 12 to 14 hours a day, that's sufficient to get your body excreting these heavy metals. And a 3-day fast is ideal for getting rid of parasites for sure. But antiparasitics, chlorine dioxide is very, very effective. But, these situations that we're all discussing are very, very real, and cleansing the temple. But the most important thing right now is that I am not taking any chances. I just park my feet I park myself at the feet of Yeshua, Jesus Christ,
Praise
because
Right.
this,
God.
when people say like, okay, I did a deep dive and I found out just how corrupt and satanic the constructs of power are on this planet, and all I could do was pray. And that's what we need. We need a revival, people to come back, because you know what, if you think about it, why would God send his only begotten son? And it's because that man figured out that the blood of children, the stem cells in their adrenalized blood, could produce this effect where it keeps rich people young. It also
Yep.
reverses the aging process. It's the fountain of youth. So
Yeah.
since the dawn of time, they've been sacrificing children for this purpose. And that's why God sent his son to be sacrificed, to be the ultimate sacrifice, to end all sacrifices. So if we're serious about ending child trafficking and ending trafficking of women, and when I worked with Robert David Steele for 15 years, it was guns, drugs, gold, women, children, and organs from refugees and asylum seekers, then
Yeah.
we understand that this is evil. This is not just money making. This is evil, and these people. So you ask yourself a question like, is J.D. Rockefeller a reptilian? Is he a vampire? Is he a demon? Or all of the above?
Mhm.
Because that's what we're dealing with. This is not a
I
time.
think, you know what I think? I think
Right.
that vampires are actually werewolves.
Well, they are, because they consume
There's a
blood,
whole-
which facilitates the shape shifting.
Yeah. I believe there's a lot of hybrids too. So depending, they were saying that the bloodline that my former husband comes from, they do a lot of like chimeras. And
100%.
yeah, and his call sign in the war was Wolfman, and he always, referred to himself as part wolf.
Yep.
But I never
I identify with that. I've
Yeah, I was
throughout
like-
my life, I've been like, I respect wolves, and I think that has something to do with my programming.
yeah,
And so, and I have like this, I'm very feminine, but like I drive a hot rod that most men can't even keep running. It's a kid car. So it's like I have this maleness. I have this badassery in my maleness. It's weird. It's weird. Like nobody understands it. I'm a super freak.
well,
so you
we've all been manipulated, right? Like we were talking about the other day,
Yeah.
our genes and stuff. And like I have a rare blood type. And so they
Mhm.
always say, oh, well, that's reptilian and all of this stuff. I go, I've been spiritual my whole life, searching for
Mhm.
God, searching for Jesus my whole life. Do not tell me.
Well, Carrie Cassidy interviewed me, and at the end of the interview, she went live on all of her platforms to say that I was a reptilian
Yeah.
and that I came from a satanic bloodline, and I'm a positive bloodline. She was
Mhm.
born in a military lab, and I'm just like, and she asked me if I knew anybody that did any exorcisms. So I'm just like,
Yeah.
is that the pot calling the kettle?
Right.
What?
Do you because like a lot of these narcissists, right? So
Mhm.
do you think too that Jesus came for
Well, I think that the tribe of Dan is the
Yes.
reptilian bloodline, and the tribe of Benjamin, it says, and I did a show on this with the rabbi he said it's literal, where it says Benjamin is a ravenous wolf, and it's not figuratively speaking, it's literal. He is a wolf who devours his prey in the morning and divides it at night. So the tribe of Benjamin is where the werewolf line comes through, and the reptilian line comes through the tribe of Dan, because it said he's a serpent. And this is said, it's a literal interpretation.
Well, that's why God warned us, right? Back then, he warned them, do not interbreed with them. Do not wipe them out. Do
But
not
we have, yep.
play with this. And we, because of the narcissism and the love bombing and the this and the that, right? We're like, oh, but they're not that bad, or
Right.
something, and then we come
I
into
see.
agreement with it, and then they continue their line, all of humanity is, we're all mixed.
Now you said
Well-
that your blood type is rare.
Yeah.
What is it, if you don't mind me asking?
It's RH negative.
AB negative.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've got the rhesus gene, I guess, in there. So, yeah, but I've always been, no matter how much they wanted me to hate God and curse God, like my mom and stuff like that, I never did. I would tell her, "Well, Mommy, please stop. Jesus loves you. That's not who Jesus is. That's not." And so from a young age, I've had that knowing of the Savior before I even knew anything about Jesus, because later on it would be Catholicism and all of this stuff, and I never felt comfortable, never ever. It's like, you guys are all, well, I would say this all the time to my family. I'm like, you guys are all crazy. And I would run away all the time. I've had foster parents. I was baptized Mormon, all this stuff, because I could never stay at home long enough, but that was all part of the system. And I'd always have to go back, oh, it's not that bad, just go back. And no, they're crazy. They're abusive. It's horrible. Oh, well, they're your parents. All right, go back, so like, but they could never break me. And so they hated me for that, and I would always be searching. And so when I went through deliverance, I had to renounce all of that, because Mormonism is definitely in the system. And it's just, the Freemasonry, all of that stuff, and
it's the breeder arm. It's the breeder arm of the Luciferian network. Yeah, that's where they breed the bloodlines of Solomon.
Yeah. Yep.
Mhm.
And so,
Well, you know what, guys? I was born B negative. But when I was pregnant with my daughter, she literally gave me a blood transfusion, and I changed to B positive and became
Nice.
like her blood type. So I'm B positive now.
yeah, I had to have the Rocam shots when I was pregnant, because my
I did too.
baby
I used to have those shots too.
opposite.
Yep.
So,
But
Yeah.
our blood can change. So I'm just saying,
Which
know-
is an
what I
interesting conversation.
thought of is like the blood of Jesus, right? Covers us all, right? So no matter what blood types we have, we're washed
And
clean.
that was one thing I told God. I want to know everything there is about creation from the very, very beginning, before anything. And I said, but you can leave out the DNA part, because that's just too complicated, like the blood types. I'm just like, leave it out. Just leave it out.
I tell God all the time, I go, I don't want to know anything. I would love to go back to the garden and not have any concerns about any of this. Take me
Yeah.
out.
Well, that's why the tree of knowledge of good and evil was something that God did not want us to participate in, because
Right.
Well, guess what, Casey? There's a Jewish book that says that the actual eating of the fruit of the tree was that Samuel, or Satan, had Adam and Eve watching a child, and the child was crying in the garden, and Adam struck the child and killed him. So he ended up cutting him up in little pieces and eating him. And then this is why it said that they ate, because they referred to humans as trees, and the child was the fruit of the tree. And when they ate of the evil, that was the first act of eating a child, or cannibalism. And this is why it said that they ate of the fruit, the evil.
Now I
Of
have
the
a
tree.
question. I have a
Yeah,
question.
and that's in the
about
Jewish
this.
books.
But they
That'd
also
be
have
interesting.
the power.
I have a question about this. Okay. It's just an I wonder. So you had Adam and Eve. They didn't know anything. So they didn't know right from wrong. Right? Right. So if they ate from the tree, how did they know when they ate from the tree that they were wrong to do it?
Like I said, if you can't really, you can look at that story from the King James's version, and all Bibles are just another translation from King James. Okay, so if they say,
wasn't there
it's-
like the Geneva Bible was long before
Well,
the King James? Yeah.
all like the NIV and all these other the living and they're all retranslations of the King James version, right?
Mhm.
But here's the thing, you really have to go back and study some of the Jewish stuff, because in our language, in the English language, when you read something, you don't know if it's literal or figuratively speaking. In the Hebrew, it will tell you if this is literal or not. So they actually have it very clear, and they have the original stories and the full stories. We're just getting a condensed version of it. So you can read it, but you really need to go back and read the older, bigger documents if you want to get the whole story. If you like, if you want to know the whole story, you're gonna have to go back and get it.
I-
Yeah.
I think that if you want to know the real story and the whole story, you have to read it from the tablets that it was engraved on.
Original, yeah. And see, one of my grandfathers was Tyndall, who wrote the Tyndall Bible. He was a grandfather. One of my grandfathers was a grandmother was Margaret Wycliffe, which was William Wycliffe, who wrote the Wycliffe Bible, and then Taylor, who got burned at the stake by the Catholic Church, because he said that the church is not a building, it is the people. Okay. And so the Catholic Church said, "Oh, we got to kill this guy because they can't know that they're actually the Holy Spirit dwells within a human and not in a building." Okay.
Right.
So
right.
that would destroy the Catholic Church doctrine. So yeah.
Can I just make a comment really quick? I think that your question, Brenda, was that the veil was lifted, because that's what Rob was saying before the shooting. He said that the veil was thinning. So I hear a lot about the veil, and so I think that once they participated and ate from the fruit, that veil was lifted, and sin entered in, and then they knew all the things that Satan was trying to expose them to.
I have a nice theory, if you'd like to hear it.
Sure, Steve.
Based off of a lot of my film research too. But before that, so I have like two things to say. First, that Eve was disillusioned and convinced Adam to partake in the eating of the fruit. The other thing is that I think the fruit could have been a peach, and that Adam and Eve weren't meant to eat anything or drink anything until they ate from the tree of knowledge. And that could have started our whole digestive system just by doing that. So just a theory, because I mean we don't see anything written about consumption until that story. That's like the first story in the Bible.
That's interesting, Steve, because the Bible also doesn't say that it was an apple.
No.
Right. And they talk about beguiled, and beguiled could mean a sexual act.
Right. And one of the things that I'm going to add,
two seeds.
Yeah. Well, one of the things I was going to add is that Nathan Reynolds was talking specifically about being augmented by DNA from every kind of creature as a super soldier. So it's like we have a lot of evidence that they have like attacked us genetically, and the super soldiers have literally signed up for it. Like he even says, "I didn't think I was going to live because I figured my kidney would give out because of all of these augmentations that he accepted," and he signed up for all of them. And so, and that's part of it. Like when you were talking about what Steve was saying is in the garden, it wasn't an apple. It was a theoretic knowledge of this radical,
symbolic.
The radical, intelligent evil that we were all going to have to contend with here on Earth.
And also, like, it took advantage of Eve's trusting nature, if you look into it that way too.
Yes.
Like, there's total deception involved.
Yes.
Mhm.
And for those of us who are women, which are 4 of us before you showed up, Steve, thank you for bringing a man in. But you know what? We beat ourselves up because we are very loving and forgiving, and we create opportunities for people. But you know what? That's how God created us.
Yeah.
So, Susie, I just want to say to you that you are a beautiful human being. And the fact that you reach out to people and you help people, don't ever consider that a weakness. It's not.
Yeah.
It's
Right.
the way God created us.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, guys,
Thank you.
we have been on almost 3 hours. Can you believe
Yeah.
that?
Yeah, I was going to say, if you guys are going to keep going, I have to check out here pretty soon. But yeah, this is
Well, you know what? Like I said, I didn't get my nap today. I
Oh my
have
gosh.
been in
Yeah.
so much pain. And then I was
Aw.
traumatized when I went to take a shower and sat on that cold water.
Oh no.
I'm kind of wore out myself. But we are going to have a show tomorrow night, everybody. I just can't say who it is right at this moment. I have to put his stuff out late.
Because he gets targeted bad if
He
we
gets
say his
targeted
name
bad when
before.
he's going to
you know.
come on. So I have
Yes.
to do his show, schedule it later. But we are having a show tomorrow night, and it's going to start at 8 o'clock Central Time. So Eastern will be what? 9? Yeah, 9 o'clock. So, Casey, would you like to tell people how to be able to contact you if they want help with anything or want to understand some of the things that they're going through?
Absolutely. I've been providing free support to survivors of sexual trauma via my website, sexualtraumaandrecovery.com, for 29 years. It's always free. And I've canceled and throttled on every platform, including X, as a survivor. But I am still on X as Casey Sunshine Pro Singer, as you see there, but also it's Kylea Christian. So if you just look for Casey Sunshine in Newport Beach, you will find me, and you probably won't be able to handle everything I post, because once you accept some of the conspiracy theories that I put out there, then I'm gonna bring you to another level. And so far, I'm batting 1,000. Not that I'm bragging or anything, but it's a sad truth. Conspiracy theorists are like, yeah, we're proving wrong.
50 to 0.
They can't even call it. They can't even call us that anymore.
No,
Because
we're just
everything we said was going down. Is going
I didn't say I
down.
told you so, but I told you so.
Mhm. We tried to warn you. We tried.
Crazy when they're still so asleep, though. It's like, oh, well, what channel is that on? Is it like a Patriot something, blah, blah, blah? It's like, well, yeah, but listen to it. Actually,
I go
Yeah.
through it with my daughter still. I have
Yeah.
found that it's easier for me to just not argue with her.
Oh, yeah.
Not say, because one day she calls me up, Mom, do you believe in chemtrails? I said, well, yeah, they've been doing that since I was a kid. And that's it. I ain't talking to you anymore. And hung up on me. I'm like, hey, you asked me a question. I answered
set
it.
you
What,
up.
you lie to you?
Yeah, they set you up. They do that to me too.
That
And
was
it's
a
like,
setup.
my kids are like, Mom, I don't want to hear about demons anymore. Okay. I'm like, why? It's fascinating to me. It doesn't.
Oh, I'm waiting for my daughter to come around because at this point in her life, she doesn't believe in Satan. She doesn't believe in evil. She doesn't believe in good. She doesn't believe in God. But she broke down to me one night and said, Mom, my husband lost his job. This is going wrong. My truck broke down. What did I do? Who did I piss off? And the only thing I could say to her was God.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Everything's
So-
a soul test. Every day is a soul test. And that's what I tell my survivors is like, just wake up and realize that you are being put to the test. Are you going to pass? Make
Yep.
sure that you're serving God and God's children, and that you're just living in a place of love for God and God's children. Otherwise, it's not gonna go well.
Absolutely.
Yep. I need to get her
And
down.
you know what?
here.
And I was thinking when you said that, Brenda, I was thinking she really didn't piss off God, because God doesn't get pissed off. He just
Well-
loves. It's the other God that gets pissed off. Okay.
Well,
But
okay, so he's
it's
teaching
just-
her a lesson, wanting her
but-
to learn.
what I'm saying is the universe is trying to point her in the right direction, I think,
And she wants to
Yeah.
come back
to
here.
a loving God. Yeah.
And I think that if I get her back here and then I get her around you and Joel and everything else, I think that things will fall into place for her. I really do. Because she cannot be told. She has one of those that cannot be told anything. She's got to see it. Actions speak louder than words.
That's how my
Yeah.
younger son is too. Yeah. It's that
Yeah.
generation too. I mean, they've been so indoctrinated through school and everything else. I mean, it's
Yeah,
just
she was good till she went to college. She knew
So
about this
we
stuff.
paid them to program our children against
See,
us.
that's why
Yeah.
my child has never been in a public school, homeschooled.
But she went to college to go learn, of all things, get a master's degree in liberal arts. What? Really?
Her sold her soul, Brenda. Oh my God.
She said to me, Mom, you're just mad because I got a college degree in this and I can make more money than you. Now wait a minute. Because see, when I went to school, it was nursing school. I learned how to take care of people.
Yeah. Save
Okay.
lives.
Then I went to an academy so I can learn how to protect people. I could hurt them and fix them all at the same time. But what do you got? You can go work for human resources. Really?
Yeah.
Really?
Yep.
yeah.
And they're laying off right now.
It's like arguing with a fence post,
And
Brenda.
I'm
Arguing with
proud
a
of
fence post.
her that she
Right.
had decided to go to college. And I thought, all right. And then I asked her, what did you get a degree in? She said liberal arts. And all I could do was sit there with my mouth open like, what? What? What did you do? Here her husband got a double master's in cybersecurity and all this other stuff. My daughter went to school for liberal arts. Well, bless her heart. I'm glad she went to school, but I mean, I think she could have learned something else.
Yeah.
I mean, she tried going to school for a med aid, pass the meds and these nursing homes and stuff, but she didn't like it because and I said, why did you not like it? Because those people are crazy. No. When one of my first jobs I ever had I was the CNA in a nursing home. And let me tell you something. It was so worth my time. I used to sit and listen to their stories, and they would tell me how they would have 5 cents and go to the store and get a gallon of gas, get milk, get bread, and a candy bar for 5 cents. I'm like, wow, talk about inflation. Boy, we're getting robbed.
Right?
Yes. Yes.
But yeah, I mean, I loved it. I learned a lot from some of those people. And, I was awake most of my time, growing up. But listening to them and their stories kind of made me think about a lot of different things, and look at things in a different way. So, but yeah, liberal arts. I just love it. God, I love her. I really do.
Well, we'll pray for her too.
I know, right?
Sometimes you don't have to say anything. It's the power of prayer, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
This will give her
Just
an
give it to
encounter.
God. Yeah.
Yeah.
Just ask God to help. Yeah.
Walk 5 miles to school, Norma. Exactly. And if you ask these kids to walk to the corner to go get the mail, they're like, come on, Mom. It's like, really? Well, then, you're going to get up and take me to school? Can you walk? It's only down the road. No. Might mess up my tennis shoes. Like, oh my God. But yeah. So, and Monica, where can people find you?
Yeah. So the best way to contact me is, hang on, I don't have it memorized. Faith Abounds 2024 at gmail.com. It's shortened FTHABNDS2024@gmail.com.
Okay. And woo, you're late. We're getting ready to wrap it up. But
I know. I just saw Woo went, hey,
I'm like,
yo. Yeah, I was
Woo,
like,
we've been on for over 3 hours.
3 hours. Yeah.
Woo slept in. But yes, we are going to go ahead and wrap it up, guys. And Steve has a lot of things going on. Steve, tell everybody about all the things you got
Oh,
going.
but Norma said, Casey, it's great to see you. Come back soon also. I don't know if you saw that.
We love when she's on.
Right?
Well, on Tuesdays,
Norma.
I have on my Yissel Missile Productions channel on YouTube, I'm doing deep dives into Ed Lead Skolnick and his Coral Castle. And Thursdays, I'm doing deep dives into the Bermuda Triangle. I just started that series 2 weeks ago. And then next Saturday, not tomorrow, I'm starting another deep dive on the Chicago film industry, starting in the 1900s. So it's really going to get a lot of details in that, and Thomas Edison and all that stuff. So yeah, check me out. Just look up Yissel Missile. If you Google that, it'll pop up a whole ton of interviews, but you'll find me if you look up that name.
That's a great name.
Thank you. Little alliteration off my last name. Yissel.
Okay, I just
Nice.
went back in the messages, and Norma said Kronos was the son of Uranus. Kronos is the one that you see that statue where he's eating the child. It looks like Santa Claus.
Oh,
That's Kronos.
Okay, yeah. Kronos.
Yeah, because
Well-
he swallowed. He had a prophecy about Zeus and them gonna, take over the kingdom. So he would eat his children. Yeah.
Mm.
Oh,
And
wow, that's a good one.
Moloch
Good one.
does that too, right? And Baal.
Yeah. Well,
So-
Moloch in particular ate the children, but Baal, I think.
Moloch. Well, they sacrificed to Moloch. Well, they would sacrifice children to him.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Which is also part of the abortions as well. So that's all child sacrifice as well.
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah. Sad.
Yep,
Sad
yep.
truth.
Bad gods. Bad gods.
Did you see that Jaguar Wright, who's been speaking up about the Diddy files and all
Oh yeah.
that, he was at the White House or something?
I don't know, but one of our SRP people, I won't mention his name,
Right.
started bad mouthing her and
Right.
saying all kinds of stuff. So I went and I subscribed to her channel and listened to her. Now I've seen her before coming out. She's been doing this for years. She's been telling people for years, this is not right. This is not right. This is not right.
And Allie Carter too.
Allie
She's-
Carter. Yeah.
I'm
her
going to
too.
tell you something about Allie Carter now. I don't know what I know what her story is supposed to be, but she did a live stream one night when her and her mom got pulled over, and they were so bad with the police, and
Very
all they
rude,
would do
right?
was asking questions. So finally the cops bared down and said, you know what? You want to act like this? We're going to search your vehicle. And they went through every little thing in their car. And the whole time she was just snooty, and it was horrible the way she treated them. When in all actuality, what started it was her mom got pulled over because she was speeding.
Well, you know what? I saw that too, Brenda. But
Yeah.
they get pulled over all the time.
I heard
would
that.
get-
They get caught.
They
Yeah,
get
I heard
pulled
that.
over like, constantly.
They're
And
harassed.
And
Yeah.
they did talk about the fact that Allie went into an altar when the cop,
Oh.
yeah, she was in an altar and she admitted that she was not behaving appropriately because she just
Oh.
went into this altar.
Yeah, I
because-
seen that and I was like, Jesus,
yes.
what?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Why
But there
you
are-
doing
there
that?
are
You're only
people like-
making it worse on yourself. Because I know from a cop mentality, you're
yeah.
only making it worse on yourself. Shut your mouth. Just be
Yes.
quiet and
Yeah.
let them write the ticket and
Right.
and move on. But
Yeah.
oh no. But I
Yeah.
did hear that a lot of people think that the woman who says she's her mother, that she's a handler.
Yeah, there's a lot of people. I was gonna say I was on a space with Megan Walsh the other night, and she was just like, "Hey, before you like get deep and wide into Allie Carter, know that that's some stuff going on there." So it's something to consider.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
So,
was so confused, but I do know that the person that was talking, some of the things he was saying, and then he was saying, well, I don't believe this person. Then before you know it, he's got them on his channel, asking them questions. They're telling their story, and
Yeah.
everything's fine. And then at a dime, he switches, and I can't stand you, and you lied to me, and that. And I'm like, see, that's why you're not allowed on my show anymore. You're a weirdo.
yes, I will say this much: when it comes to Allie Carter's story, I can tell you that everything that she's reported is absolutely true.
I believe it too. Yeah.
Yeah. Now,
Yeah.
whether or not there's a lot of people, because in the last 2 years, I've been watching people.
I've
with
seen
really big
evidence.
accounts.
Yeah,
Mhm.
she's telling the stories. She's telling the truth.
Yeah.
But she might be like an Alex Jones, where she's like somebody who's a gatekeeper, who's authorized. Because, there are certain things where you just got to wonder, like, okay, why is Jessie Saboter allowed to speak about this, and why haven't they killed her?
Yeah.
It's just a question, because, people ask me all the time, like, Casey, how can you speak against your mafia family? I'm like, you know what? You ever heard me speak negatively about my mafia family? The answer is no.
Mhm.
And that's for obvious reasons.
Yeah.
I
Or
will
you
tell you
can get into
anything
all
and
the
everything.
details. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll tell you anything and everything you want to know, but you will never ever hear me speak ill of them. Ever. Ever.
Right.
I like breathing.
I don't like swimming with fishes. They're scaly.
I hear you.
I like having my head attached to the body and stuff,
Like John the Baptist. You don't want to be like John the Baptist, right?
Yeah. You talk generally as much as
Yeah.
possible.
Yes, I do. And you know what? They would never have an issue with me, because they let me out with their permission. And my godfather was like, he tried everything to try to keep me in the network, and it was very, very loving, but he understood. He really did.
Who is Pam Bondi? Pam Bondi. I
Who?
know
She's the head of she just got confirmed by the Senate.
that. Okay.
She's
Because
the
Wu
attorney
said-
general to Trump.
Attorney General to Trump, yeah.
Okay, because that's why she sounds familiar. Duh.
Mhm.
Because we said that they just released the statement about the Epstein's list is on her desk, and now we will see if Trump is for real. Woo,
Yeah,
stop.
that was like 10 hours ago. It's been on her desk. So I think
Oh.
we're going to wake up to some new information. But like I said,
Trump is
It's going
definitely for
fast.
real.
It's and I like this because it's going to bring out a lot of survivors in
Well, let's just
right all over the
let's
world.
just
They're gonna
pray
start-
that nothing happens to this woman overnight.
yeah. Good one.
All right, Lord, put a hedge of protection around her, and with the fire of the Holy Ghost, blast all those demons away from her in Jesus' mighty name.
That's right. That's
Amen.
right.
Amen.
All right,
thank you, guys.
Put it out there.
But all right. Well, everybody, we're going to go, and we will see you tomorrow night. And like always, everybody, please be kind to one another. Have a good night.
Good night, guys.
Goodbye for now, from Beyond the Box.
Please join us again for Beyond the Box, Friday and Saturday evenings, from 9 p.m. to 11 p.m. Central, 10 p.m. to midnight Eastern. Join us for more intel bombs from our extraordinary guests.
Good night, Putin. Good night, Tucker.